When every monster girl Liam targeted started falling for him, and their obsession literally made him stronger. He learned this inside Blackage Dungeon. Back then he was just an F-rank hero, standing between an injured Alyssa Benton and a demon. Princess named Odessa, his heartlock system had one rule: lock a target. Turn her strongest feelings toward him, then cash that reaction into raw power. Princess Odessa swung for his neck, he locked her, she kissed him instead, and Heartlock rewarded him with attack power. He was Liam Corbett, and Alyssa was his injured childhood friend. He was the only shield standing between her and Odessa. Alyssa could barely stand. Her left leg was bleeding through a torn boot. Odessa's next clean strike would finish her. Liam could run and leave Alyssa under that blade, but he stayed. Suddenly, his system flashed a result. Attack increased. 3 demon soldiers rushed him before Odessa could decide why she had kissed an F-rank stranger. Liam swung his cheap guild sword. Once all 3 soldiers flew backward, 1 hit, 3 bodies, and a crater. Across the stone, Alyssa stared at his F-rank badge, then at the soldiers. Odessa touched her mouth. Her own execution had turned into a first date. From a nightmare, Liam was fully prepared to call it a heroic sacrifice. Alyssa's expression said she had other vocabulary. 1 soldier lowered his axe. Asking if this human was her boyfriend, a soldier watched her tail split. The floor beside him. Speak again and lose your tongue, she warned, making him shut his mouth. His friend did not learn from the example. The second soldier pointed at Odessa, demanding to know why she kissed him. Odessa turned her blade toward him. That bought Liam a brief opening, but created a rumor strong enough to kill him later. Seriously, look at how this scene looked. A gorgeous demon princess had kissed him, powered him up, and started threatening witnesses. On paper, that sounded excellent. The problem was everything else trying to murder them. Heartlock could hold only 1 target at a time. A strong reaction produced a reward. It did not upgrade his sword, heal Alyssa, or make his F-rank bones less breakable. Liam learned about these gear flaws immediately. The expedition captain had sent Alyssa and him down the lower route as bait, then sealed the gate behind them. Odessa was doing exactly what the captain expected. The princess pointed at him, demanding they kill the humans slowly. The remaining soldiers charged, and Liam met the first axe head-on. His boosted strike cut through the weapon and buried his blade in the demon's shoulder guard. The impact launched him across the chamber. The soldier stopped laughing. Then Liam's sword cracked from hilt to tip. The second demon's hammer hit his chest. His starter armor split down the middle, and he skidded across the stone. Heartlock had upgraded his stats, but his sword and armor were still bargain bin trash. Alyssa dragged herself toward him, shouting for Liam to move. Alyssa watched a spear descend. Odessa's tail snapped around the shaft and stopped it inches from his skin. The soldier looked back at her. Princess Odessa planted 1 boot on his chest, declaring he was hers to finish. Touch him again and she would finish them first. The spear lowered, and Alyssa stopped looking. Afraid, she pushed herself upright against the wall. Odessa bent over him and brushed the hair from his ear, whispering if he was still pretending he didn't want her. He stared at the boot, pinning his ribs, teasing her sales technique. Odessa smiles and lightly bites his ear, triggering an immediate system reaction. His defense, agility, and attack all skyrocket from the boost. Her tail wraps tightly around his waist, each possessive twitch granting another buff. The soldiers trade nervous looks, one whispering to ask if this is torture. Another points out she is blushing, but Odessa hears him immediately. With a single flick of her tail, the wall behind that soldier gets a body-shaped dent. Boyfriend rumors spread regardless, as Alyssa takes a painful step toward them. She demands Odessa get off him, but the beast only glances over her shoulder. He explains that Alyssa usually talks like that right before she saves him. Alyssa raises her trembling sword, adding that it is usually after he deserves it. Odessa narrows her eyes, and jealousy spikes the heartlock meter, boosting his agility. Great, but his rescue plan has officially become a complete mess. Caught between 2 dangerous women, he grabs his broken blade and stabs at Odessa. She catches his wrist without even looking, her playful smile instantly vanishing. Her voice turns ice cold, calling him a sneaky little human as she lifts him. She flings him hard against the wall, shattering the stone right behind his shoulders. His last pieces of armor snap loose and hit the ground as he rolls away. Dodging another tail strike, he slashes at a nearby soldier's knee with his broken blade. Sparks fly, but the blade stops short, even though his attack power has climbed. After all, the weapon is barely hand-sized, and Odessa easily pins his arms again. She whispers that he keeps struggling, while he fights uselessly against her grip. He replies that she keeps rewarding it, triggering another heartlock spike. She stares at the empty air in front of him, unable to see the system screen. She asks what he is smiling at, then slams him. His face smashes into the stone, prompting Alyssa to lunge forward before being blocked. A soldier disarms her weak hand, and he immediately stops joking around. Odessa is his only target, and her reactions are still paying out big buffs. He needs to break this circle before Alyssa gets hurt, so he twists around. He mocks the one thing she cannot ignore, looking right up into her eyes. He tells her that her soldiers think she likes him, earning a tail crack. She retorts that they think what she allows, but he dares her to kill him. The reward counter blurs as the soldiers back away, glancing toward the entrance. Suddenly, a massive sword strikes the floor, and trust me, things just got worse. She freezes against him. He does not know this newcomer's name yet, but he understands. Odessa has a lover, and he has arrived to face the man she chose. As his strength rises again, the stone beneath Odessa's knee begins to crack. With Alyssa still injured across the chamber, he knows he is out of time. His determination to protect Alyssa has deep roots, starting back in childhood. Other kids decided she was too ugly to play the mother, pointing and laughing. Claiming nobody wanted her, a boy laughed, earning a slap from an 8-year-old him. He was small and terrible at diplomacy, but the hit landed perfectly. The other boys backed off, and he grabbed Alyssa's hand to pull her close. Leading her into their chalk house, he told her she could be the mother. He promised to take full responsibility, and she squeezed his hand tightly. Confirming his choice, she leaned in close for a sweet childhood kiss. He dropped his toy cup, stepped right through the chalk wall, and abandoned his new family. To be fair, he was only 8 and totally panicked before lunch. Alyssa remembered both parts, the promise and the sprint, 6 months before. Blackridge, a brutal city raid, handed Liam a literal death sentence, a hero and several monsters. Fought over a sealed metal box downtown, one monster split it open, and the blast threw Liam right through a storefront. Crimson liquid rained down across the entire street. The hero fell, monsters followed. Anything that deadly red rain touched began dissolving instantly. Falling concrete buried him before the rain even reached the sidewalk. That saved his skin, but it also trapped him inside the toxic vapor. Medics found no burns, cleared him, but they completely missed what he had breathed in. Days later, he coughed up purple blood. A doctor studied his scan, took off his glasses, and gave him one. Year left, purple blood came first, then cuts. Soon, parts of his body would stop. Healing, no cure, just painkillers when he asked for help. That night, a heartlock prompt appeared over his hospital bed. Only demon god blood inside Blackridge dungeon can remove the poison, unless he undergoes full binding. He accepted before the prompt even finished blinking. Dying made him incredibly easy to recruit. Before the expedition, Captain Vaughn found a petty excuse to send Liam exactly where the cure lay. At the guild's supply table, he accused Liam of somehow knowing the color of his wife's underwear. Liam blamed his improved perception. Then he proved the point by calling out the colors of several people standing nearby. One soldier checked himself, another quickly closed his coat. An offended woman threw a glove at his head. Vaughn pointed and called him a pervert. Observant pervert, Liam corrected. Alyssa covered her face. Stop helping yourself, she groaned. The supply crew laughed. Vaughn did not. Before sunset, Vaughn assigned Alyssa and Liam to the dangerous lower decoy route. Alyssa checked the marker, noting this passage dropped below the approved map. Vaughn shoved the gate open, telling them to earn their badges and map it. They entered. The stone gate slammed shut behind them. The lock clicked from Vaughn's side, and the main squad walked away. A walking burial, this decoy route was a death trap. The stairs collapsed under a charging monster. Alyssa shoved Liam across the gap, taking a falling stone directly against her leg, yet she still killed the beast before it reached him. Her knee folded when she tried to stand, so Liam carried her through the dark tunnel. Put her down, Alyssa demanded. Liam refused. Her leg was decorative, but she still wanted to swing a sword. Liam shifted her higher, telling her to swing it from up there. The tunnel opened into Odessa's chamber. She stood over fallen fighters in armor that was winning his attention until her sword came up. Alyssa grabbed his sleeve, begging him to run. She was D rank and couldn't stand, while he was F- rank. That boss would kill them both. Liam set Alyssa down and stepped in front of her. She whispered he always chose the stupid brave option. He glanced back, telling her it was hard not to notice, since she was usually blocking his view. Then Odessa swung. Heartlock turned the strike. into a kiss, and the whole chamber lost its collective mind. The heavy ring of the sword was still fading. Odessa kept his arms pinned tight while the system reward counter climbed. Alyssa was desperately reaching for her fallen sword. The surviving soldiers watched their princess choose Liam over her own command. One soldier cleared his throat, asking if they should kill the injured woman. Odessa's eyes stayed on Liam. Nobody moves until she decides what this human is. That order kept Alyssa alive, making every soldier stare harder. Liam tested his new strength against Odessa's grip. His shoulders lifted her an inch. The stone beneath his knees cracked. Her eyes widened as her tail coiled around his legs and slammed them flat. Odessa tightened her grip. Do that again. Liam grinned through the pressure. You sound curious. Odessa slammed his legs flat. I sound murderous. Heartlock paid him for her face's lie. Alyssa reached her sword and dragged it closer with 2 fingers. Her eyes met his. She was hurt, outnumbered, and still preparing to attack a demon princess. For him, she had already dragged herself across the chamber twice. Her leg kept failing. She kept reaching. He shifted his wrist toward the broken blade. Odessa noticed and pressed harder. Every demon soldier dropped to one knee. Odessa's body went still against his. Heartlock flashed anew. Warning, jealous witness detected. The man at the entrance was Odessa's lover. Judging by the sword, the horns, and the silence, he could kill all 3 of them. His broken blade would still be falling. Inside the same Black Ridge chamber, the heavy sword belonged to Demon Lord Conrad. He was Odessa's lover and the strongest demon in the room. He had arrived while she held Liam against a wall. With his armor scattered around her feet, Conrad looked at her, then he looked at him. His sword slipped from his hand. Heartlock chimed before the metal stopped ringing. Jealous witness multiplier. Total gains doubled. His attack, defense, and agility surged at once. The floor cracked under his heel. Before he even moved, one demon soldier stopped smiling. Another tightened both hands around his spear. They had seen enough. Honestly, he had survived worse positions physically. Socially, this was a brand new personal record. Conrad raised one hand. A black blast crossed the room. The new agility let him turn before it landed. He caught the edge on his broken sword, and the steel vanished from his hand. The rest of the blast hit his chest and drove him through the wall. His double defense kept his body together. The wall broke behind him. Conrad stared through the dust. The surprise on his face said he had expected paste. Liam stood up. Instead, he stopped raging blindly and started watching how Liam moved. Honestly, that was worse. Odessa released him and spun toward Conrad. What are you doing? Conrad's voice shook the chamber. Explain why a human is in your arms. Odessa pointed one claw at him. Explain why you arrived late. The demon soldiers kept their heads down. Smart men. Nobody wanted eye contact during the worst relationship argument in Blackage. Conrad stepped forward. He killed every human force between here and the upper gate. Odessa cut him off, saying he took too long. Conrad's anger stalled. Then the demon lord who had slaughtered his way across the dungeon lowered his head. He apologized. One of his officers looked up by accident. Conrad saw him and pointed toward the exit. The officer fled before the punishment arrived. Talk about embarrassing. Conrad was cooked before the fight even started. His troops had dropped to their knees when he entered. Now they were listening to him apologize beside the man his lover had kissed. Odessa folded her arms, saying he should. Conrad tried to recover. Now release him. Odessa glanced at Liam. No, that single word hit him harder than any sword ever could. Liam crawled to Alyssa, while the 2 demons argued about punctuality during a Alyssa tries to stand on her injured leg, almost falling before Liam catches her. He lifts her up, carrying her as she whispers to keep holding on to her. Liam shifts her weight, telling her she can complain when her leg actually works. Alyssa wraps her arm around his neck, murmuring she's not complaining at all. That line nearly makes Liam miss the turn as he sprints down the corridor. His doubled agility carries him further than expected as he hits the turn. Carrying Alyssa, he almost rams straight into the wall. Talk about intense power. Terrible control. Alyssa tightens her grip and points him left. He veers left just as Conrad's blade slices the wall right behind them. Odessa notices them first, her tail slapping the stone as she sounds the alarm. Conrad spins around. Their brief head start is ruined by Odessa's call. Odessa points a finger at Liam, accusing him of ruining their royal relationship. Liam has only known Odessa for minutes, but the damage is done. Talk about a massive misunderstanding. Liam is now branded as a suspected homewrecker. Conrad's expression darkens. Any mercy is gone, replaced by bloodlust. He crosses the room in one stride, closing in fast as Liam hears him. Liam shifts Alyssa to his left arm as Conrad lunges straight for his back. Planting his foot, Liam swings his broken blade directly at Conrad's armored wrist. The blade stops, but Conrad's fist shatters the metal, blasting Liam backward. He slides onto one knee near the corridor entrance, still desperately holding Alyssa. His forearm goes numb, and Alyssa bites down a cry as her boot hits the floor. Conrad raises his sword. Alyssa pushes Liam's chest, telling him to drop her. Liam just grips her tighter. Alyssa desperately grabs his collar, pleading with him. Meeting her eyes, he declares she is not getting abandoned for anyone's convenience. That was the entire point. Liam holds her tight and checks his screen. He begs the system for help, but the interface does absolutely nothing. As Conrad's sword swings down, Odessa suddenly smacks him with her massive tail. The heavy impact blasts the demon lord straight through a solid stone pillar. Conrad rises, clutching his cheek as Odessa steps directly between them, warning him. She told him not to touch Liam. Suddenly, the system flashes with stinging light. A critical emotional hit levels Liam up. Heartbreak apparently counts as combat damage. This system's ethics department must be a dark closet run by a wild raccoon. Conrad stares in shock that she struck him, but Odessa just defiantly lifts her chin. She calls him irritating. Conrad beats his chest, declaring himself her demon lord. Odessa eyes his bruised cheek, telling him to act like it. Nearby, a soldier turns away, shoulders shaking. Laughing at the supreme demon lord is usually suicidal. Yet holding back a laugh right now is completely impossible for them. The surrounding troops stop kneeling and slowly back toward the exit doors. Conrad still has the power, but absolutely nobody stands by his side. As Conrad charges again, Odessa acts first, wrapping her tail around Liam's waist. She yanks him out of the way, slamming him flat before climbing over him. Pinned to the floor, she commands Liam to stop running as he struggles. He protests that her boyfriend is trying to kill him, but she ignores him. She claims he will wait. Amazingly, Conrad actually halts in his tracks. And honestly, you have to admit, that looks unbelievably embarrassing for a Dark Lord. Odessa pinned the F-rank intruder. Leaning closer, she demanded his body stay with her. He stared up, saying he had other plans. Odessa just smiled and told him to cancel them. He pulled against her tight grip, stating his only schedule was surviving today. She smirked, demanding cooperation. Alyssa dragged herself over and grabbed Odessa's tail. Odessa flicked her tail once, wrapping Alyssa's arms and pinning her directly to the floor. He twisted beneath Odessa, desperately telling her to leave Alyssa out of this. Odessa looked at Alyssa, then back at him, her voice sharpening as she questioned him. Heartlock triggered another agility boost. Nearby, Conrad sank heavily onto one knee. His hand gripped the sword until the metal groaned as Odessa pointed at him. Without looking away, she coldly warned him not to interfere. Conrad's shoulders shook. He caught Alyssa's eye, seeing she had one free arm. She reached for a fallen dagger, but he quickly shook his head to stop her. Conrad's hand trembled. Odessa was feeding his heartlock, making any new attack dangerous. Both could easily target Alyssa. Her jaw tightened, and she left the dagger alone. That quiet trust bought him precious time to keep playing this incredibly ugly game. As nearby soldiers fled, Conrad stood and rushed Odessa with his blade raised. Odessa turned too late, the sharp edge stopping just a breath from her neck. Conrad's arm trembled. He could strike her, but he could not finish it. Odessa watched him hesitate, then she turned her back and reached for him. Conrad's sword slipped. Suddenly, a strange red light spread beneath his skin. It surged across his cracked armor as a massive pressure wave rolled through the room. The walls began shedding dust, and every torch flame bent sharply toward him. A fleeing soldier screamed that the demon lord was self-destructing. The remaining troops stampeded into the tunnels, dropping their weapons in terror. Another shoved his own commander aside as the exit jammed with panicked bodies. Odessa released him, demanding a stop, but Conrad's glow only burned brighter. Conrad laughed brokenly, raising his glowing face to declare that if he couldn't have her, then this level would die with them. Odessa's expression finally twisted in fear. Her tail released Alyssa as the system flashed a message across the screen. Level 10 reached. He unlocked a brand new skill called Flash Step Slash. But the requirement arrived with the danger. The skill absolutely needed a weapon. He had a broken blade, and seconds before Conrad vaporized the entire room. The shattered steel only had to survive one clean, decisive motion. Shoving Odessa aside, he gripped the shattered steel and charged straight at him. Conrad sneered, calling him filth, as the youth activated his flash step slash. The chamber dissolved into a single white line as he passed Conrad instantly. Before his smile finished forming, Conrad's head left his shoulders. The red light vanished. Silence fell over the room. Odessa stared in shock at Conrad's body. Alyssa lowered her shielding arm, and he let the broken sword drop. Then Conrad's body moved. The corpse lunged and wrapped both arms around Odessa. He slammed her against the wall as the red light returned twice as bright. Conrad was dead, but the self-destruct was still highly active. His severed body tightened around her, dragging her into death by sheer force. His severed head rasped from the floor, declaring they would die together. Odessa clawed desperately as her magic failed. Alyssa pointed toward a broken shaft. He stands at the edge. Alyssa yells for the lower level as the ceiling splits. Liam has only one escape route, and 2 people who cannot survive it alone. Bracing his foot against the wall, he tears Conrad's dead grip away, slicing deep. Odessa collapses right into him. He catches her with one arm and lifts Alyssa. He bolts straight for the shaft. Escaping means nothing if Alyssa gets crushed here. The chamber explodes behind them. Burning heat slams directly into his back. They drop into the dark. Stone, fire, and wreckage chase them down. Odessa's claws dig into his shoulder. Alyssa buries her face against his neck. As the lower floor rushes up, Liam twists his body to take the brunt of it. His shoulder slams against the stone, followed by his hip and his remaining pride. They roll across the wet rock, finally stopping right beneath a crumbling archway. A massive stone slab crashes down right where they stood. The blast seals the shaft. Wreckage, Conrad's army, and drama stay trapped upstairs. Silence, no one moves until Alyssa coughs against his shoulder. Still alive, he jokes about it to hide his shaking hands. A tiny voice suddenly squeaks from inside his shredded shirt. It demands he remove his hand. Looking down, he sees a red salamander. The creature has Odessa's angry eyes. Her magic completely flickered out when Conrad fell. Because of that, her body shrunk with it. Liam peels the pocket open. He greets Princess Odessa. She bares tiny teeth, warning him about his tone. Stretching the pocket, he jokes she fits next to a bandage. She bites him. She claims she is only conserving power. He taps the pocket, teasing her. Odessa bites harder, conserving power. The pocket princess has officially arrived. His dignity is gone. Heartlock chimes, announcing Demon Lord Conrad's defeat. The reward is a black ridge map. A dark layout unfolds across his vision. Pale lines show safe passages. Traps and boss routes appear when he focuses. One of the paths climbs straight back up toward the expedition squad. The other descends toward the boss chamber, home of the life-saving blood. Several red marks drift between the paths, but Heartlock offers no tutorial. Perfect, the map gives him his first useful directions all day. Alyssa watches him tracking the invisible lines, realizing he can see something again. It is a route, he tells her, leading straight to the demon god blood. Before he can celebrate, his body fails, coughing purple liquid across the stone. Falling to his knees, thin cuts split his arms as heat sears his left hand. Alyssa catches him before his face hits the ground. His pinky finger begins to blacken. It disintegrates, completely vanishing into purple mist. The chamber map and Odessa's voice blur. Alyssa presses his hand against her shirt. She holds him tight. Odessa crawls up to his pocket. Touching the edge of the purple stain, she instantly pulls her claws back. The princess falls silent. Alyssa's voice begins to tremble. She asks what is happening. Unable to joke through her fear, Liam admits the truth. The blood rain 6 months ago poisoned him. Doctors only gave him a year. He needs the demon god blood to survive. Alyssa stares at his missing finger. She asks how much time is left. Liam tries to dodge the question. He says it is less than he wants, but Alyssa demands the real answer. The doctors gave him 1 year. 6 months are already gone. She desperately searches his hands, tracing the missing finger and every scar he kept covered. Alyssa tightens her grip on his hand, and he finally leans back against the wall. He lets her keep holding his hand, exhaling deeply while trying to rest. Both new clothes and a weapon, longer than a simple dinner knife, are desperately needed. Odessa suddenly pokes her head out of his pocket, demanding some food. Alyssa stares at her before pointing at Odessa, reminding him she tried to kill them. But he quickly notes she also saved him twice. Odessa demands proper counting. Narrowing her eyes, Alyssa notes she only kissed him once and attacked him quite constantly. Odessa simply sniffs, claiming the kiss was effective, while he stands between them completely defenseless. He has 9 fingers and no armor left on him. This is apparently his new crew now, and their map marks the nearest route upward. They quickly follow the map through a narrow tunnel until a door appears. Suddenly, a bright white beam flashes through the cracks as a man screams on the other side. Then the door slowly opens. The Black Ridge map led them right here. Straight to this heavily sealed door, blocking the upper route of the entire dungeon path. Inside, another laser fires and a second scream cuts short. Aaron Keats explains why. Aaron Keats reveals exactly what went down during those crucial minutes before they finally arrived. Aaron was the B-rank vice captain, and he still valued actual human lives. Captain Vaughn had led the main squad directly into a corridor filled with deadly, invisible lasers. He is the same ruthless captain who had sealed Alyssa and him below. Their heavily armored vanguard takes a single step forward onto the suspicious black floor tiles. A white beam cuts him down before his heavy shield even hits the ground. Inside that completely intact armor, the soldier lies still, and nobody else dares to move. This trap needs no second warning. Aaron orders everyone back. He bravely steps between the lasers and the low-rank soldiers before Vaughn can point at anyone. Vaughn just stares at the corpse, deciding to target the weakest soldier instead. A poor private who only carried spare ropes and water. Scanning the squad rank badges, the ruthless captain points directly at the absolute weakest private. He coldly orders him to walk the corridor and find a safe route. The terrified soldier protests that he cannot see the traps, but Vaughn just snaps back. Vaughn tells him to discover them anyway, while Aaron draws a silver arrow. He strongly suggests testing the hallway with the arrow, first to keep the squad alive. Several soldiers nod in agreement. Vaughn glares from their faces straight to Aaron. His jaw tightens in pure fury as he snatches the silver arrow and snaps it. The silver tip bounces right next to the dead tank on the floor. Aaron looks at Vaughn with absolute, undisguised disgust, while Vaughn points the broken shaft forward. Vaughn warns him that if he questions authority again, he walks next. His brilliant strategy is wasting the safe tool and threatening his best man. You really have to wonder what this crazy captain actually thinks leadership is supposed to look like. The terrified bait soldier reluctantly steps forward onto the dark floor. He looks back, breathing heavily, while Vaughn coldly waves him forward with 2 simple fingers. The next tile flashes, sending a beam straight through his head. As the dead man's friend rushes forward, Aaron quickly catches his shoulder to hold him back. He stops him before the trap claims a third victim. He was just a low-rank soldier. Then their door opened. Alyssa and Liam stepped through together. Van's hand stayed raised. His mouth opened, then closed in pure shock. His finger was gone and his armor had vanished. A tiny demon princess hid in his pocket. But being alive still counted. Van stared through the open doorway, then turned his gaze. He looked at Liam's bare hands. Both decoys had returned, but only Liam looked completely mangled. Like the lower root tried to devour him, a soldier near the back whispered, "That's." The F-rank, another, looked at the bodies, realizing he survived the deadly path. Third man stepped away from Vaughn, making room for Alyssa. It was a subtle movement. But Van noticed. He quickly recovered his voice, barking at Liam Corbett to cross. Alyssa limped in front of Liam despite her injury. He just came through the depths. "Tell him to find another way." Van drew his sword, resting the sharp edge against Liam's neck, pressing the cold steel closer. Van growled that the decoy speaks only when allowed. Aaron stepped forward. "Captain," he said, "we already lost 2 men, but Van swung the blade toward him, asking if he wanted to make it 3. Silence followed. Liam stared at the dead bait soldier. Van had sent them both out to die. Now he wanted a repeat performance, just because their sacrifice had kept others safe. Suddenly, the Black Ridge map unfolded across Liam's vision, revealing a pale path. He gently pushed Van's blade away with 2 fingers, calmly telling him it was fine. He challenged the captain to keep up. Van's eyes narrowed, ordering him to go first. Liam tapped the sword aside, muttering that keeping up was exactly what he meant. Having just lost a finger, he felt he had earned a little attitude. He stepped onto the first safe tile, no beam. As he moved left, a white laser snapped. On behind his heel, burning the wall, Liam stepped over the dead soldier, following the glowing route. He reached the center without once looking back. Vaughn had not moved. The captain, who eagerly sent others to die, cowered safely behind Aaron. So Liam hopped once. Half the squad flinched. He hopped again, making Aaron smirk. Alyssa did not hide her grin. Van's face tightened, commanding him to stop playing. He called it confidence, Van called it stupidity. Liam stepped backward onto the next tile without looking. No beam fired. The insult died in Van's mouth. After that, Aaron guided the weaker fighters along the safe path Liam pointed out. Aaron even carried a wounded man over the widest gap and returned for another. Alyssa stayed close behind Liam despite her leg. Whenever she slipped, he held out his hand. She took it silently. Van followed them, staying close enough to press a sword to Liam's back. Before this, Liam was completely disposable, but after this, everyone watched his boots before taking a step. Soon, the last soldier reached safety. A guard slapped Liam's shoulder, thanking him for saving them. Van glared at the guard's hand until it dropped. The soldiers now looked toward Liam instead of Vaughn for direction. Even Van's own elite guard waited for Liam's signal before marching. Van noticed his cold blade pressed against Liam's ear. Van whispered, demanding to know how an F-rank survived that route. Liam smiled. He blamed it on excellent footwork. Pressing harder, Van demanded how he knew every safe path. Liam smiled wider, repeating that he simply had better footwork. Alyssa raised her weapon while Aaron stepped between Vaughn and the others. Vaughn saw both defensive actions and sheathed his blade, ordering Liam to lead from now on. Every trap, every monster he would face first. This was Liam's promotion from disposable bait to unpaid guide. Still, his map gave him the advantage. Vaughn held the badge, but he had the route everyone needed. They pushed deeper toward the boss room. The map warned him about a pressure plate under some loose gravel. He stepped over it and made the squad copy him. At the next turn, monsters crossed the tunnel ahead. He held everyone in a side passage until the pack passed. Every remaining fighter reached the next corridor alive. Vaughn stopped watching the route. He watched him instead. Soon after, Odessa started nibbling on his pocket. From inside, Odessa whispered for food, but he kept walking, saying he was working. Odessa bit the cloth, demanding he move faster. Tiny voice teasing about his passenger. He glanced back, asking if she was jealous. Alyssa smirked, mocking the lizard living beside his bandages so deeply. Odessa's head popped out, claiming princess status. Alyssa smiled at the pocket-sized princess. Odessa hissed at her, but that pocket princess label stuck. Immediately, the map highlighted a patch of pale green mushrooms by the wall. Safe for monsters, poison for humans. He crouched to wrap two when Vaughn snatched one away. Vaughn held it up, asking what he found. Just monster food, he replied. Vaughn stared at the mushroom, then him, asking if he expected anyone to believe an F-rank found food before his scouts. He reached for it, telling him to stop stealing lunch from a lizard. That was too much dignity for Vaughn. Everyone knew where this was going. Vaughn bit the mushroom in half. Odessa watched from his pocket with pure outrage, whispering that the man ate her food. He covered her head with his palm, whispering that life is cruel. She shoved back, demanding he make it crueler. He liked her attitude. Soon, a concerning development started. At first, Vaughn looked pleased with himself, chewing slowly so the hunter would see it. Then his stomach growled loud enough to drown out the marching boots. Aaron glanced back. Captain Vaughn straightened, telling everyone to keep moving. The pocket princess sniffed the air, looking insulted, complaining he poisoned her food with himself. He covered the pocket before she could climb out to start another boss fight. A second sound escaped Vaughn a few steps later. The nearest soldiers quickly sped up. A sour smell rolled through the corridor, making the rear line break formation. Several soldiers rushed forward, nearly stepping on the pressure plate he had marked. He blocked them with one arm, pointing at his footprints to stay on the route unless they wanted traps to kill them before the stench did. One guard covered his mouth, blaming dungeon poison, while another pointed at the floor. The gas was rising from the cracks. Vaughn nodded as if he discovered the threat himself, completely shameless. Even his stomach issues needed stolen credit. Captain Credit was the perfect fit. He could steal praise from a gas leak. Vaughn looked at the squad and chose to lie, barking at them to run. He followed the map and quickened their pace, forcing Vaughn to run as the toxic mushroom fought for dominance inside him. Every few yards, the squad heard another ugly sound from the rear. Nobody looked back, as respect had its limits. Alyssa limped beside him, shoulders shaking. He told her not to laugh. Alyssa whispered she was injured, calling it medicine. Aaron caught up on his other side, asking if the floor was actually toxic. He only lied to thieves. Aaron looked over his shoulder at Vaughn, his mouth twitching as he moved closer. Near the next at the junction, Vaughn grabbed Liam by the shoulder and spun him around with a pale face. But his voice stayed loud enough for the squad. Vaughn hissed, asking what Liam had fed him. Liam pointed at his hand, saying he took it. Vaughn leaned closer, accusing him of knowing. Liam pointed at his stomach. He warned him it was monster food, but Vaughn heard premium rations. Behind Vaughn, a soldier coughed to hide a laugh. Vaughn turned, but the soldier quickly looked. Fascinated by the ceiling. Yep, public humiliation had officially entered the chat, and the captain could not arrest a smell. Vaughn leaned close, demanding a fix, but Liam turned away. Telling him to walk it off, Vaughn reached for his sword, but Alyssa stepped beside Liam, while Aaron stepped beside her. The rest of the squad watched. Vaughn finally released the hilt. Using the map, Liam led the squad around several monster nests and trap corridors, never explaining how. He turned before the danger appeared, and the squad simply followed him. Aaron even began repeating Liam's hand signals before Vaughn could issue any orders. Alyssa matched every turn without a word, even the soldiers who had laughed at Liam's rank. Now watched him for the next move. Each correct choice made Vaughn quieter. Near the boss room, Vaughn's eyes stopped watching the floor. Instead, they locked onto Liam. The map showed a red monster marker moving inside the wall beside them, keeping pace. Without attacking, the ceiling above the next passage held a massive stone spike, the size of a wagon. The map marked it as stable, but Vaughn ordered everyone to spread out and placed himself directly behind Liam. Alyssa was 2 steps ahead, while Aaron had moved back to help the wounded. The timing was far too neat. Captain Credit walked with his sword angled upward. He swung, cutting directly through the stone spikes. Stone support. The map instantly changed from stable to falling. Liam shoved Alyssa forward as the spike dropped. A black scorpion tail burst through the wall and smashed the stone aside before it could reach Liam. The broken spike hit Vaughn, instead clipping his shoulder and throwing him hard across the corridor. His sword spun away, sticking in the wall right beside one of his own men. Too bad for him. His murder attempt had terrible aim and, seriously, even worse customer service. The tail struck again, emerging from a crack behind the stone, armored in black plates thick as a man's waist. The point aimed straight for Vaughn's chest, but he managed to block with his sword. The impact cracked the floor from wall to wall. Aaron grabbed Alyssa, pulling her back toward the squad as she fought him with her good leg, screaming that Liam was still there. Aaron shouted over the cracking stone. The floor was breaking. He yelled to move now or lose both of them. Liam jumped, but Alyssa reached across the widening crack, but their hands missed by inches. The corridor collapsed between them, stone swallowing the opening as dust filled Liam's mouth. Alyssa shouted his name from the other side, but the next impact buried her voice. Liam rolled onto his back in a narrow chamber beyond the rubble. The scorpion tail withdrew into the dark as a woman's voice spoke above him, asking why a human was crawling through her territory. Liam thought the falling spike was Vaughn's worst idea, but then that tail saved him, split him from Alyssa, and left him beneath the woman guarding the real boss. The narrow chamber beyond the rubble left Liam entirely alone with the woman who owned the scorpion tail. Alyssa, Aaron, and Vaughn's squad were trapped on the other side. Every impact through the wall told Liam that the second scorpion was still attacking them. Liam had no sword, and a flash step was needed. So the rule was simple: stop the controller before her remote puppet did. Liam never reaches Alyssa. A woman drops from the ceiling, pinning him down. Black threads run from her fingers into the walls, twitching with every distant crash. She is tall, armored from the waist down, and dangerously pleased with herself. In his defense, he only notices her legs because one of them is about to crush his head. She presses her heel right next to his ear. She demands he remember her name while her puppets tear his people apart. That gives him her name and a rude deadline. A smaller scorpion puppet crawls from darkness behind her, its shell scraping both walls as the tail rises over his chest. Conrad's doubled stats are still active inside Liam. Since his weapon is gone, he uses the oldest skill in human history. He simply punches it. His fist pierces right through the puppet's center plate, shattering the shell behind Mallory as broken legs hit the ceiling. The tail spins once and drives point first into the floor. Mallory's smile thins, looking from her broken puppet to his rank badge. Filthy human, she snaps, demanding to know what he did as Liam pulls his arm free. He corrects her, but she moves before he can even stand. Her knee strikes his shoulder, her other leg hooking around his neck to slam his face against the stone. Under normal circumstances, this position would be pretty embarrassing. But right now it is about to break his skull. Heartlock pulses across his vision. Target available, Mallory Fitch. He locks onto her, her fingers jerk. A crash echoes from the other side of the rubble, then Mallory tightens her leg around his head and laughs, mocking that his strength means nothing down here. Humans belong under monsters. His heartlock meter rises and his defense increases. He pushes her ankle, but it won't budge. He says the meter thinks she is enjoying this. Mallory's grip tightens, snapping that his meter is defective. Her agitation increases. The meter always exposes liars. Mallory's forces had started strong. Aaron would later explain that the B-plus puppet hit the squad like a moving wall. Aaron places his remaining shields in front and the archers behind. One volley strikes the scorpion's face and bounces into the ceiling, but the puppet drives through the shields anyway. Alyssa hears Liam's first impact through the rubble. She abandons the formation, running toward the collapse on her injured leg. Aaron catches her arm, telling Alyssa to stay behind the shields. Ripping free, she shouts that Liam is behind that wall. The puppet's tail comes down at her back. Aaron shoves Alyssa aside, catching the strike on his sword. The blade bends and his boots carve 2 lines through the floor. That choice keeps her alive, putting him directly between Alyssa and the monster. Back in Liam's chamber, Mallory leans harder into the hold. He has no weapon, no room, and only one target attached directly to his face. Pride is expensive, and he is already dying, so he bites her foot. Mallory freezes. Liam bites harder, dragging his tongue across the edge of her boot when she refuses to move. Her entire body recoils and the remote threads snap tight. Heartlock stacks 3 notifications across his vision. Agility increases, attack increases, and target agitation hits 41%. He rolls free before she can kick him through the wall. The broken puppet tail is still buried beside them. He tears the stinger loose and holds the jagged plate like a short blade. It is ugly, heavy, and technically longer than his missing sword. Definitely progress. Mallory snaps 2 fingers. 3 loose scorpion legs rose on black threads and stabbed at him from different angles. He ducked the first, knocked the second into the wall, and cut the third thread with the stinger. The leg dropped. Mallory flinched as if the cut had crossed her own skin. That gave him the first clean clue. The puppets were extensions of her body, holding the control, and every battlefield moved with it. Mallory stared at him as if he had insulted her entire bloodline. He wiped his mouth. Terrible flavor, effective result. Animal. Mallory hissed. He pointed at the rising meter, still climbing. On the far side, her B+. Puppet suffered its first real malfunction. Its front legs wobbled. The tail that had Aaron pinned missed his shoulder and buried itself in the floor. Aaron cut Alyssa loose from the cracked shields and dragged her back. One tank tried to capitalize, ramming his shield into the puppet's side. The monster recovered enough to sweep him across the corridor. Aaron caught the man's armor before he hit the laser-scarred wall. Vaughn stayed behind both of them until the tail was stuck, then he rushed in late. Captain Credit slashed across the puppet's face after Aaron had already moved everyone clear. The shell sparked. The monster staggered. Van lifted his sword. My pressure is breaking its control. Keep attacking. Aaron looked at the rubble instead of Vaughn. Van looked at the squad instead of the rubble. The impact shook Mallory's strings. Her eyes flicked toward the wall. That was enough. He grabbed the severed scorpion tail and swung the armored segment at her ribs. Mallory blocked it with one shin. The force pushed her sideways. He followed with a punch. She twisted around it, caught his wrist, and kicked him into the ceiling. He hit stone, dropped, and landed on one knee. Mallory's threads shook with her breathing. You touch me with your mouth, she growled. He raised the broken tail like a club. You put your foot on my face. We both made choices. Her cheeks warmed. Her expression became murderous. Heartlock paid both reactions. Defense increased. Agility increased. Mallory rushed him. He swung the stinger for her shoulder. She caught the plate between both palms and twisted. The jagged edge tore one glove and opened her grip for half a second. He drove his forehead into hers. Mallory answered with a knee to his ribs and a heel against his spine. She trapped the scorpion segment under one foot, drove an elbow into his chest, and folded him against the wall. The threads around her fingers trembled harder. His defense rose again, but the wall still hurt. Heartlock was generous. Construction remained hostile. On the other side, her puppet suffered the second malfunction. The entire body collapsed onto one side. Aaron shouted for the squad to back away. Vaughn ignored him and planted both boots on the fallen shell. Van raised his sword over the puppet's neck. Watch carefully. This is how an A-rank finishes a boss. He struck the same cracked plate 3 times. The puppet stopped moving, several exhausted soldiers cheered. One called Vaughn the strongest man in the dungeon. Vaughn Accepted that title immediately. Of course he did. Captain Credit could. Steal praise from gravity. Aaron kept staring at the rubble instead of the captain. Alyssa pushed past him again. Aaron caught her around the waist before she reached the broken wall. If you climb that, the puppet wakes and kills. Alyssa slams her elbow into Aaron's armor, telling him to help her open it. Aaron's jaw tightens. Grimacing, he turns and starts pulling stones with her. Jealous, loyal, and still useful. He is definitely having a rough afternoon. Meanwhile, the threads around Mallory's fingers snap tight as Alyssa and Aaron pull at the wall. Suddenly, she slams him down and presses a knee between his shoulders. I will kill them first, Mallory whispers, then adds that she will teach him what filthy really means. Alyssa is on the other side of that wall, so he stops playing. He grips Mallory's ankle and starts to rise with her weight still on his back. Then, a woman's voice echoes through the threads from deep inside Black Ridge, demanding to know why her door is still open. Mallory instantly goes pale. The woman behind that cold voice is Rowena Cade, the boss guarding the cure. He only knows her name because Mallory whispers it. Like a desperate prayer and a threat, Rowena Mallory breathes, her panic hitting every puppet string at once. On the far side, the giant scorpion rises from its false defeat. Its tail whips Vaughn right off the shell, launching him straight into his own soldiers. The squad's cheers turn into a retreat. One soldier pulls Vaughn out of the pile, leaves him there, and runs behind Aaron. Two more follow. Nobody waits for the captain's orders. Mallory springs off his back, spreading both hands and pulling every thread tight. The massive remote puppet rears over Alyssa and Aaron. Hartlock flashes the score he needs. Attack 10,000. He stands fully, and the stone under his feet splits. A massive pressure wave blows dust from the chamber, walls rattling the loose puppet pieces across the floor. Mallory looks at him, then at the attack number reflected in his eyes. He takes one step toward her, denting the floor. Mallory takes 2 steps back. Is he still filthy? He asks. Mallory's mouth opens, but the insult never comes. She cuts her own threads and flees through a crack near the ceiling. The remote puppet drops dead before its tail can reach Alyssa. Aaron keeps his bent sword raised for 3 tense breaths. Alyssa does not wait, shoving both hands into the rubble, starting to pull stones toward herself. Vaughn orders her back, but Alyssa ignores him so completely that 2 soldiers join her. Aaron joins next, showing that the captain's authority is losing pieces faster than the wall. He could have chased Mallory. The Black Ridge map shows the cure sits beyond Rowena's door, and every extra fight costs time his body simply does not have, so he turns to the wall instead. One swift punch opens a massive hole through the rubble, and Alyssa comes through first, grabbing his face to check both eyes, then running her hands over his shoulders for injuries. You are alive, Alyssa breathes. Mostly, he tells her, though his dignity lost a rough fight with a boot. Aaron climbs through behind her, watching her hands stay on him. Aaron sheathes his bent sword, muttering that he looks fine. Alyssa does not look away from him, snapping that she wasn't checking his opinion. Aaron's mouth shuts. Mallory is gone, but apparently Hartlock has left some collateral damage in the room. Vaughn pushes through the hole last, covered in thick dust and fake importance. One soldier helps him stand, while another praises the strike that had supposedly dropped the puppet. Vaughn wipes blood from his lip, pointing at the dead shell, claiming his signature attack broke its core. Aaron looks at him. It collapsed when something hit the other side of the wall, he notes. Vaughn steps closer. Are you questioning a rank victory? Vaughn asks. Aaron glances at him, then at the hole. After that punch, he questioned the timing. Vaughn turned to his squad. No one joined him. The Guardian is dead, he announced. The true boss is next. He would lead from the front and finish it alone. Vaughn tapped his captain bars on his ruined armor, claiming one clean boss kill would upgrade those bars. The soldiers who had just cheered him straightened up. False praise had gone straight to his brain with zero filter. How tragic, Mallory later explained. What happened after she fled? She reached Rowena's chamber and warned her that an F-rank human crossed 10,000 attack. Rowena answered with a blast. Beamed through Mallory onto a mound of burned bodies beneath a stone altar. Humans and monsters were stacked together, feeding a fire under green demon god blood. Rowena looked down at her injured guard. Thousands became fuel. You left my door for one human. Mallory tried to rise. Rowena kicked her back onto the corpses. That was what waited behind the door. At that point, he only saw the cure marker burning on the Black Ridge map. Vaughn planted one boot against the boss room door. The captain lifted his sword, telling everyone to watch him handle a C-rank boss. Then he kicked Rowena's door open. Vaughn kicked the boss room door open, marching in. Before anyone could stop him, the floor dropped toward a stone altar. Filled with green demon god blood, burned bodies surrounded it in black. Layers with fresh corpses feeding the fire. Rowena Cade stood between him and the cure. She was Mallory's boss, masked and waiting by the boiling altar. She looked at Vaughn like noise. A burned monster slid from the corpse pile, but Rowena caught it with one foot, pushing it back in. The green blood bubbled, the temperature plummeted. Rowena thanked them for bringing fresh fuel. Alyssa tightened her grip. Aaron stopped, treating the room like a rank mistake. The altar burned people as fuel. Vaughn had delivered more. Rowena barely looked at him, but he smiled anyway. The captain spread his arms, telling everyone to stand back and watch him. Solo this C-rank boss. Aaron stopped beside him. This room killed thousands. Vaughn glanced at the bodies, dismissing them as weak before staring at the fire, still making it about himself. He tugged open his A-rank collar. His breastplate revealed black scales underneath. Vaughn tapped the hidden layer, boasting his brother gave him S-rank protection against the C-rank hole. Nothing could touch him. The armor was the only part he actually believed. Vaughn raised his sword and charged, crossing the room shouting his own rank. His remaining guards shouted after him. Rowena stayed still. Vaughn swung for her neck. Rowena simply lifted one finger. A thumb-wide beam crossed the chamber. Vaughn's A-rank armor vanished from shoulders to waist. The blast launched him backward, burying him in the doorframe as his sword hit the floor. The black S-rank scales underneath glowed red, cracking but keeping him alive. One of his sleeves now hung empty below the wrist. Vaughn had entered calling himself Rowena's daddy. One finger later, he lost his armor, his sword, and his hand. His shouting guard stopped with his mouth open. Another soldier backed toward the door before Vaughn even stood. That supreme confidence ended fast. Was that really the strongest man in Black Ridge? Nobody answered him. But Van tried anyway, pointing his remaining hand at her and forcing a laugh. Cheap trick, he sneered. Rowena looked down at his empty sleeve and noted. She counted 2 surprises. A soldier behind Van lowered his weapon, hearing the boast. Now his eyes were locked onto Van's empty sleeve. Van slowly stood up, pushing off the stone with his remaining hand, his face twisting with rage. They stared at his empty sleeve. Aaron joined the survivors. He ordered a defensive shield line to fall back and block the choke point. It was the only sensible plan left, but Van's face tightened with jealousy. Refusing to be outdone, he pointed his only hand at Rowena, ordering a charge. Charge! Aaron stood still, but Rowena's beam already crossed the room. The room instantly. Van stepped close, kicking up dust from his ruined armor. A captain is the solid foundation of his team, Van snarled, demanding absolute obedience. Then he hid behind his own men. Honestly, who knows what support even meant? To him, he claimed to be their shield while hiding behind those they charged. Refusing his command still carried a heavy death sentence. The defensive shield line moved first, with the archers following close behind. When a wounded soldier hesitated, Van grabbed his collar with his remaining hand. Get moving, Van ordered. The soldier stared at the empty sleeve on Van's chest but obeyed. Rowena waited until they reached the room's center. Then she opened her palm, unleashing a deadly green light. The front line vanished in the glow. Armor melted and soldiers dropped. Before their blades could touch her, the men behind them tried to stop. But Van shoved 2 more forward, screaming at them to keep moving. A shieldman turned to pull a younger soldier back, but the next blast slammed into them. Both fell, never to rise again. Rowena swept her beam sideways. Alyssa's injured leg buckled, but Aaron caught her as another wave struck. Seeing this, Liam rushed in and tackled them both out of the way. The blast incinerated where they had stood. Liam ripped Aaron's armor off and flung all 3 of them behind a shattered pillar, Alyssa crashing into him. Aaron rolled to his knees. The foolish charge ended in blood. The charge ended in ashes. Nobody cheered and nobody dared move again. Good men died just because Van ordered a charge to soothe his pride. Retreat, Van screamed, already running as a low-ranked soldier limped in his way, so Van grabbed him to use as protection. But Liam slapped his hand away before the soldier became a human shield. The cowardly captain reached the escape doors first, leaving his squad to die. But Liam lunged forward and grabbed the collar of Van's armor. Van swung his elbow at Liam's face, but Liam took the hit and yanked him back, ignoring his desperate orders to release him. Rowena raised her hand, again targeting the retreating survivors. Liam looked down at Van's empty Sleeve then at the soldiers left behind. You claim to be their support. Liam growled. Van's eyes widened in panic, begging Liam not to do this. No escape, Liam spun and threw him straight into Rowena's beam. The blast struck the scales on Van's back. Vaughn became a screaming shield between Rowena and his squad, letting the beam push him all the way. Across the chamber, his S-rank armor held. It bought them time. Fighters to reach safety. Vaughn clawed the floor with his only remaining hand. His boots dragged deep trenches through the ash as his panicked squad ran past him. Ran right past his burning armor. Then the final impact launched Vaughn through the doorway and right into the retreating line. His arrogant boast was now safety. Gear solid support, finally accurate, the survivors dragged themselves into the hall. They ignored him completely. One man reached out, saw the pile of bodies behind them and lowered his hand. Another pulled a wounded low-ranked soldier past Vaughn without asking permission. Aaron stared down at his fallen captain, then kicked Van's sword far away from Vaughn's only hand. Alyssa leaned against a pillar and raised her sword, refusing to leave Liam. Looking at her bleeding leg, he muttered, "You are collecting terrible decisions." Alyssa adjusted her grip, replying that she learned from him. Aaron stepped to her other side, refusing to leave her, while Van watched helplessly from the corridor, wheezing that it was desertion. Aaron looked back once. "You deserted us first," he spat, turning his back on the captain who still desperately clutched the badge, but Aaron stopped obeying it. Liam glanced between them. This was becoming a crowded heroic sacrifice. Aaron's mouth tightened, saying Liam did not own the concept. Alyssa looked over. Neither did Vaughn. The very last survivors finally cleared out the room. Aaron shoved the broken door inward, blocking part of the opening. With rubble, Rowena did not chase them. She turned back toward the altar, feeding another body into the green flames. The blood boiled harder. This was his only cure. Every second near Rowena made it uglier and harder to reach. Liam activated Flash Step Slash, crossing the gap before her next beam could even form. The skill carried him past her shoulder. He cut her mask, but his broken weapon only sparked against it. Rowena turned just late enough for Aaron to deliver a heavy strike to her back. Alyssa drove her blade toward Rowena's knee, but Rowena kicked it aside. That opened a narrow lane to the altar, and Liam took it, landing at the basin and reaching for the green blood. A transparent wall slammed his palm, and the barrier exploded outward, sending Liam flying across the room to smash through a stone pillar. Beside Alyssa, Rowena watched him stand, warning that no living creature crossed her barrier. While she lived, one rule, one problem. The Black Ridge map showed him. The altar killing Rowena was still his absolute job. She touched the barrier with one finger, making it bright. "Kill me and you might drink," she mocked. "Fail and your friends burned to ash." She dragged a fallen body closer with her foot, but Alyssa saw it and moved before Rowena could feed the flames. Aaron lunged from her left while Alyssa threw her damaged sword from the right. Rowena turned toward them. Liam rushed her again, catching the next massive beam directly on his forearm. His boosted defense held, but the impact drove him backward. Aaron struck from behind. Rowena caught his sword at the guard, throwing him heavily across the entire chamber. Alyssa stepped into the opening and sliced her sleeve. Rowena's mask snapped toward Alyssa. That was when a slight movement inside the wall caught Liam's eye. Mallory was hiding in a cracked opening near the corpse mound. Rowena's blast had torn her armor, leaving her unable to stand. She saw Liam looking and bared. "Leave me," she grits. "He still has one kale mushroom wrapped inside his ruined belt." The second from the corridor, Van already ate its unlucky brother. He slides the mushroom into the wall beside Mallory. "Monster food," he says. "Try not to steal it from yourself." Mallory stares at the mushroom. She does not need human pity. "Good," he answers, "then call it theft." Alyssa suddenly shouts his name as Rowena drives Aaron through another pillar. He turns away from Mallory and runs. Behind him, he hears a quiet bite. Mallory chews fast and hides the evidence deeper in the wall. A little color returns to her face. One black thread curls around the mushroom wrapper, pulling it completely out of sight. Heartlock chimes. Mallory Fitch favorability increases. The number climbs hard enough to make Mallory look away from him. She still scowls, but she eats every bite. Heartlock trusts actions. Sensible machine. Terrible timing. A brand new weapon card function suddenly unlocks. A glowing stack opens across his vision, while Alyssa blocks Rowena with a cracked sword. Already cracked twice, System HR begins its speech. These weapon cards convert target favorability into randomized combat assets. The selection rules follow. He cuts it off. Skip. confirmed tutorial, skip, Rowan and knocks. Alyssa's sword aside, he slaps the prompt away, confirmed, give him anything. With an edge, the card stack spins and he slaps the first one. Silver blade drops into his hand, wardrobe breaker acquired. The name alone should have worried him. Alyssa is about to take a beam, so quality. Control can file a complaint later. He strikes Rowena from behind. The blade touches her outer robe, leaving a shallow scratch on it. Rowena catches the sword. Between two fingers, she looks at the scratch, then looks at him. Rowena tilts the trapped blade. Is that his final answer? He pulls, but the sword doesn't move. It was completely random, he admits. Rowena finally smiles, telling him his own system wants him dead. Her outer robe explodes, dark fabric bursting away from her shoulders to spin across the chamber. A fitted battle layer remains underneath. Along with a look that promises creative violence, one strip lands across Aaron's face. He pulls it off slowly and looks at him. You picked that, Aaron demands. He keeps both hands on the trapped sword. Random card, he sighs. Alyssa blinks once. Of course it was. Rowena looks down at herself while he stares at the sword. Beautiful. His rescue weapon literally chose humiliation as its damage. Heartlock displays the condition, wardrobe breaker, mark 1 of 3. Strike leg guard and mask to unlock the Skylade drop. Aaron recovers his sword. 3 marks, leg guard and mask, he says. Alyssa shifts closer to Rowena's blind side. Stop admiring your work, she snaps. He raises breaker. In his defense, the work exploded. Rowena tears the loose fabric from one arm, her cold eyes shifting from him to Alyssa. He quickly leaps between them. Rowena raises one finger. This time she stops aiming at him. She aims at Alyssa. Inside this deadly boss room, she stops looking at him completely. She is aiming at Alyssa. He moves before her finger does. Wardrobe breaker has marked Rowena's robe, but he still needs her leg guard and mask. Flash step slash gives him 6 uses, locking for 10 seconds after each. He spends the first use on her left leg. Rowena lifts her knee. His blade misses the guard and her heel hits him square. He crashes face first, then scrambles up and hits the altar barrier hard enough to light it. A blinding flash. He has 5 flash steps left but faces a 10-second cooldown. 10 seconds is an eternity, with a boss trying to kill his best friend. Rowena crosses the room before the count hits 9. Aaron strikes her exposed side. She tosses him aside without looking, as Alyssa struggles to stand. But her injured knee buckles. Rowena fires directly at him, and he raises wardrobe breaker. The ridiculous blade catches the blast, splitting the searing beam right around his body. One half sizzles past Aaron, the other slices through a corpse mound. Aaron stares in disbelief. That weapon actually blocks her. Apparently, it respects violence more than fashion. Rowena's mask turns toward the blade. Good, he needs her attention. He needs her furious. The cooldown clears and he flashes straight toward her mask. She tilts back just an inch. The sword misses her mask but tears her hood. 4 flash steps remaining. Her knee slams into his ribs, throwing him sideways. Alyssa rushes her flank. Aaron attacks from behind, but Rowena sweeps both aside. She hurls them toward a stone pillar. He leaps and catches Alyssa in midair. Aaron slams into the stone nearby, losing his breastplate. Rowena watches them closely. She watches him rescue Alyssa. Her mask slowly turns. Rowena stops targeting him entirely. She points at Alyssa. A black nail grows from her fingertip, pulsing with green light. He rushes across the room without flash stepping, slashing directly at her finger. Wardrobe breaker snaps it off, but the beam is already flying straight at Alyssa. Aaron throws himself in front of her, desperately trying to shield her first. But look at the timer. His cooldown still shows 6 seconds. But Heartlock reveals one tiny loophole. A fresh target can refresh flash step. It doesn't care if they want him dead or grew up together. He looks at Alyssa. Sorry, he mutters, then locks her. Target acquired. Alyssa. Fresh target, flash step refreshed. He triggers the skill immediately. The room becomes a single white line. He reaches them before the beam. Wardrobe breaker meets the blast at arm's length. The impact shatters their armor. It slams all 3 of them hard into the floor, splitting the beam harmlessly overhead. Aaron's broken shoulder plates spin wildly across the stone floor. Alyssa's last chest plate cracks down the center. His own coat catches fire. He slaps the flame out on his sleeve, looking down as Alyssa opens her eyes. But Heartlock reveals a brand new problem. Her agitation is at 38%. Suddenly, Alyssa grabs both sides of his face, her eyes shifting to his mouth. He knows that look. He saw it right before abandoning their Chalk family. He fled across the schoolyard back then. Now Alyssa pulls him closer. She whispers to hold still, but he pulls back. Now is a terrible time for this. Her lips curve despite the smoke. You remember, Aaron pushes himself upright. He asks why Alyssa is trying to kiss him in the middle of a boss fight. He keeps his hands up. Heartlock has absolutely zero workplace boundaries. Aaron looks at the glowing altar, completely baffled. Rowena provides the answer. She hurls a broken pillar at them. He rolls Alyssa out of the way. Aaron slices the stone in half, the debris crashing exactly where they lay. Rowena steps toward the altar, green flames coiling up her arm in warning. She threatens to burn the blood. The cure level in the basin begins falling. Dropping, that gave them a ticking deadline and erased his remaining shame. Liam caught Alyssa's hand. Strong emotions always raise his stats. A kiss, a hug, anything with enough force might give him what he needed. Aaron stared at him. Is your battle plan? Asking Alyssa to make out with him, Liam simply answered that he preferred combat support. Aaron cut him off, demanding he stop talking. Alyssa stepped between them, asking if it could save everyone. Liam met her eyes, saying it could give him a chance. Alyssa grabbed his collar and pulled him down, telling him to take the chance. Her voice stayed steady. She was scared, injured, and choosing the plan herself. Aaron's sword hand tightened, and Heartlock noticed him before Liam did. Alyssa lifted her face. His 8-year-old panic came back. Fully trained and professionally useless, he put both hands on her shoulders and pushed her away. Alyssa stumbled back one step, the hurt on her face hit harder than Rowena's kick. Aaron looked from her to him, his expression broke in 3 separate directions. He had protected Alyssa through the whole dungeon. Now his sword hand tightened, and his eyes stayed on the hurt across her face. Heartlock chimed immediately. Jealous witness detected. Critical emotional hit. Level increased and all stats jumped by 5,000. The system had rewarded him for ruining 2 relationships with 1 move. Efficient. Morally radioactive. Alyssa's agitation spiked. Target agitation 99%. Alyssa stared at him, angry that he asked, then shoved her. Liam admitted he panicked. Alyssa snapped that he was an adult. Liam glanced at Rowena. The evidence was mixed. Raised his sword toward Liam, warning that if they survived, he might hit him. Liam lifted wardrobe, telling him to get in line. Rowena reached the altar and drove both hands into the green fire. The room darkened around her, every corpse beneath the basin cracked with light. The blood rose in a spinning column. Rowena faced them through the glow, mocking them for bringing her more fuel. Then she released everything. A green blast filled the room. Liam used the plus 5,000 surge to plant wardrobe breaker in front of Alyssa and Aaron. The sword held. His magic did not. The blast dragged every point out of him as he forced it aside. Pillars broke. The ceiling opened. Aaron disappeared behind flying stone. Alyssa's hand slipped from his shoulder. The beam ended. Wardrobe breaker had cut a trench through the stone under his boots. His arm shook so hard he nearly dropped it. Aaron lay against the far wall. Alyssa crawled toward him with one hand, refusing to stay where the blast left her. He dropped to one knee. Heartlock put the number in front of him. Magic 11 points. Flash step slash was available. He could not afford it. Wardrobe breaker still needed 2 marks. Rowena was standing. Alyssa and Aaron were barely moving. He had 11 magic 2 unfinished marks, and Rowena walking toward them. Rowena walked toward him and lifted one hand for the final beam. Alyssa moved first. She grabbed the back of his ruined shirt, pulled him against her armor, and locked both arms around him. His face hit the front of her breastplate. Alyssa held him there, telling him he promised to take responsibility when they were kids. He stopped fighting her grip. Alyssa tightened the embrace, telling him she trusted him and to stop deciding for her now. Aaron dragged himself from the rubble and saw them, his sword lowered. He looked at Alyssa's arms around him. Heartlock filled Liam's vision with alerts. Target agitation 100%. Critical relationship hit. Jealous multiplier triggers, and his stats jump by 27,500. Power floods back through his bruised muscles as the broken floor sinks under his boots. Dust lifts from his shoulders, hanging in the air as Rowena freezes mid-advance. Aaron stares at the glowing stats, then at Alyssa, who still clings to him. Aaron's mouth tightens. Alyssa held that childhood promise far longer than he ever realized. Holding her close, he reacts the instant Rowena fires. He moves like lightning. The blast hits empty air. His strike smashes Rowena's leg guard, shattering the metal. Metal explodes. Wardrobe breaker scores its second mark. Rowena spins, launching another attack. He cuts through the beam, reaching her mask before the bright light can fade. With a single tap of his blade, the mask splits down the middle and flies off. Her mask falls. Mark 3 is complete, leaving Rowena terrified. Fear replaces her rage. Heartlock triggers, unlocking his ultimate finisher, Skyblade Drop. The ceiling glows blinding white as Rowena feeds every nearby corpse to the flames. A massive wall of green blood rises behind her, and she unleashes its full power. As the blast rushes at him, he raises Wardrobe Breaker and triggers Skyblade Drop. A colossal white sword crashes down, colliding directly with Rowena's beam in the center. The shockwave obliterates the pillars, the corpse pile, and most of the stone walls. The chamber floor buckles beneath the altar, and blinding light floods the deep cracks. The sudden pressure explodes outward. Rowena is thrown back, slamming hard into the wall. She falls unconscious. Mask fragments clatter all over the stone altar steps. Wardrobe breakers loose strip settles on the floor, and the barrier finally flickers. The protective shield weakens, and the glowing green beam completely vanishes from sight. Everything goes still. Eren stares at the legendary sword, dropping his own bent weapons. Alyssa offers a weak smile before her knees buckle, but he catches her instantly. With Rowena finally defeated, he immediately rushes toward the glowing demon god Blood. He lunges forward before the barrier can recover. The basin is 3 steps away. Suddenly, Heartlock flashes 2 critical warnings for both Alyssa and Eren. Behind him, stone scrapes. Rowena stands up once more, her battle gear half shattered. With ragged breath, she desperately reaches her trembling hand back toward the altar. His skill is on cooldown for 20 seconds. Talk about worst timing ever. Yet his dying allies do not have 20 seconds. The boiling cure sits nearby. 6 months of surviving poison and endless battles in Black Ridge led to this. Alyssa coughs weakly behind him. He wanted that life-saving cure more than anything. But Alyssa trusted him even longer. Making his choice, he turns from the altar. Rowena mocks him as a coward. He ignores her, scooping up Alyssa and Eren. He warns Rowena to keep things warm because he is coming back, then bolts. Carrying them both, the minimap plots a single, dangerous route leading straight up. This shortcut forces him through 3 deadly monster nests and a guarding dragon. He takes the risk. Instantly, the first pack of beasts rushes the narrow tunnel. He shoulders the lead beast aside, ramming the rest against the stone wall. He keeps his grip tight. As another creature drops, he prepares to strike. He catches its jaw with Wardrobe Breaker, hurling it back as 2 more pursue. Racing across a crumbling bridge, he kicks the support beam right behind him. The bridge collapses, sending the chasing monsters plummeting down into the dark abyss. Now the massive dragon blocks the final exit, thick smoke rolling from its jaws. Mouth completely blocking their only exit. With his hands full, he has to jump, his boosted. Shoulders strike right under its chest. The dragon leaves the stairwell, crashing into the gate. Above, tearing it wide open, but its massive tail catches his back as he passes. That hit drives him to one knee, but he keeps both allies off the ground, standing up before the dragon recovers. He runs right through the torn gate, landing heavily on the next level. With Alyssa still held tightly at his side and Eren slung over his other shoulder. Alyssa drifts in and out while he runs, her fading mind taking her back to childhood memories. Of the boy he slapped, of the chalk house, and his hand pulling her. Across the line, resting on his shoulder, she whispers that he promised to take responsibility. He remembers, he promises, and Alyssa tightens her hand on his shirt, telling him not to drop her. He tightens his grip. You're not dying on me yet. Her eyes close again, but her grip stays locked on his torn shirt. Behind them, the boss level flashes green, and the tunnel floor heaves. A shockwave tears up the stairs, shattering the stone behind him. Only 2 floors separate him from the altar, but he can feel all of Black Ridge starting to collapse. The dragon roars behind the collapsing gate as the upper path cracks wide open ahead. He sprints through it. At the dungeon exit, guild medics are rushing to load survivors onto stretchers. Van stands nearby in ruined S-rank. Scales, one sleeve hanging empty. His remaining hand still clutches his captain badge. Seeing him carry both Alyssa and Eren, Van smiles like he has found one final target to punish. Van blocks the medical team, claiming those 3 desert. The squad, no treatment. A medic hesitates, eyeing that official badge. Real and right there, Alyssa's breathing stops. He refuses to slow down. His kick slams Van back, folding him over the threshold. The captain's badge flies from his hand as he knocks out cold. He steps over his body to clear the doorway, carrying Alyssa and Eren straight to the waiting stretchers. The hesitant medic grabs Alyssa first, while another team takes Eren. Both critical. Move, he orders, and they move fast. Rules and captain permissions can wait until they ensure Alyssa keeps breathing. Alyssa's weak hand slips from his shirt as the stretcher rolls away. He stands there, just long enough to see both doors close before turning right back toward Black Ridge. The cure could still be his if only the altar survived. Less than an hour later, he reaches the lower route. The underground level has collapsed with a massive crack, splitting the boss room from floor to ceiling. The corpse mound is entirely gone. The altar itself has split down the middle. Every trace of green demon god blood has vanished. He had to choose his friends or the cure, and coming back he finds the cure has seemingly learned how to open doors, standing inside the collapsed boss room. He watches the dungeon map assign a direction to the empty altar. A red signal pulses deeper down a newly formed, hidden passage. The legendary cure he had left boiling is actively moving, and he follows. The first chamber holds 6 dead monsters on their knees, no wounds, their bodies simply stopped in place. Right where they bowed, suddenly, a black scorpion tail punches through the dust near his head. He catches it with both hands. Mallory Fitch drops from the cracked ceiling and kicks directly at his throat. He twists the tail, blocks her shin, and shoves her hard against the wall. The last time he saw Mallory, she was broken, desperate, and hiding. Inside the wall, every single wound had closed. A red mark circled her wrist. Under the skin, Heartlock opened up her status before she could hide it. Mallory Fitch favorability, 71%. Mallory saw his eyes move and snapped. Stop reading that defective meter. He held her tail away from his ribs, 71%. Says you like the mushroom. Mallory bared her teeth. I hated it. You ate the wrapper. Her cheeks warmed. Favorability increased. The meter exposed every liar. Eventually, Mallory remained one of his easiest customers. She yanked her tail free and stepped between him and the red signal. Turn around, Mallory warned. She was blocking his cure and warning him at the same time. He pointed at the healed armor along her side. Start with what fixed you, Mallory's red wrist. Mark pulsed and her knees almost folded. She grabbed the wall until the pain passed, then looked toward the sealed passage behind her. Rowena used herself, Mallory admitted. After you escaped, the altar cooled. She climbed into the blood and became the last fuel. She pointed toward the basin. Black residue still clung to the rim where Rowena had disappeared. The blood rose. Mallory continued. Avery Crow stepped out. Your antidote became a person. Mallory's jaw tightened. Avery asked where Rowena was. He pointed at the basin. Avery had looked once, then she served her purpose. He asked what Avery did first. Mallory pointed at the crack, running from the altar through 3 chambers, touched the floor, and Black Ridge broke. The surviving monsters had crawled out and offered service. The kneeling bodies around them showed how that interview went. Mallory nudged the first corpse with one boot. Avery called him ugly. He looked at the second. Also ugly, Mallory said. Brutal hiring policy. Mallory touched the red mark under her wrist. Avery chose me. I was broken, so I got blood instead. The mark pulsed. Heat ran beneath her skin. Mallory's breath caught and her knees shook while the last split in her armor sealed. Her healed fingers tightened against the wall. Then the same mark flashed brighter and dropped her to one knee. Mallory forced the words out. The blood repairs me. Avery can also dissolve me through it if I move more than 5 meters away. I die. If Avery opens the wound, I feel the same cut, healing end. A leash very on brand for his living antidote. Gray pre-dawn light reached through a crack in the ceiling. Mallory saw it and grabbed his sleeve. At night, Avery has a weak female body, she warned. Sunrise brings the powerful male form. That is the form that broke this dungeon. The light climbed another stone. Mallory pointed at the final chamber. Leave before it reaches the door. That gave him minutes. He released her tail and ran. Mallory moved to block him. Her claw stopped an inch from his chest. Her favorability meter ticked upward again. He looked at the claw, then at her. Terrifying commitment. I am obeying, Mallory hissed. You are missing. She slashed again. He stepped inside the swing and caught her wrist. The Black Ridge map showed a narrow strip along the wall, so he used it. Mallory twisted after him, but the red mark flared and pulled her attention toward the final chamber. That hesitation gave him the door. The last signal waited behind it. The red pulse jumped each time he got closer. By the door, it matched the heartbeat inside his ribs. Mallory's tail struck the wall behind him. Stones sprayed past his. She warned him over her shoulder. Liam kept one hand on the door. You used the first too badly. Before he could even touch the handle, the door swung inward. Pale woman stood on the other side, wearing a black coat far too large for her frame. Silver hair fell over one eye. Her face was beautiful. The 6 rejected monsters behind him were still dead. This was Avery Crowell's week. Night form, the living creature born from Rowena's altar. Avery fixed him with a cold, possessive stare, so Avery murmured, "My heart learned to walk." Liam reached for the closing door. Avery stepped forward at the same time. His palm landed against Avery's chest. In his defense, the door had terrible timing. White spark detonated between them. The impact threw Mallory backward and drove him against the opposite wall. A second pulse hit inside his ribs directly behind the heartlock screen. Something answered from his system core. Avery's calm expression cracked. Heartlock filled his vision. Demon God essence detected. Missing heart essence located inside current host. Demon God blood. Identified. Avery Crowell. The thing that could save him had a face. That face wanted his body empty. Avery crossed the room and grabbed his shirt. "Give it back." Liam caught Avery's wrist, asking if she meant the heart inside his system. It belonged to him before her species learned how to name this city. Avery pressed two fingers against his sternum. Red light gathered beneath them. He felt the light reach for Heartlock. He also felt what would happen if it pulled the essence free. His skin started breaking in the pale sparks around Avery's hand. He shoved the arm away. "That dissolves him." Avery smiled. "Yes, very honest, terrible." Bedside manner. Avery reached for Heartlock again. He needed the blood inside Avery before she pulled the heart out of him, so he tested it before daylight changed the fight. He grabbed a sharp shard from the broken altar, caught Avery's palm and opened one shallow cut. Avery stared at the blood. How dare he? But Liam had been dying for 6 months. Manners expired first. He drank before Avery could pull away. Heat hit his tongue and rushed through his chest. The purple poison under his skin recoiled. For 1 second, he thought it worked. Then the poison surged back harder. He coughed purple blood across the floor. Heartlock placed the answer in front of him. Detoxification failed. Estimated life remaining, 101 days. 101 days. The cure became a person, and the person's blood was useless in the wrong body. Avery examined the cut then. Watched it close. This form is human enough to survive the night. Avery explained. Its blood carries none of her full power. Avery caught his jaw and studied the purple stain on his mouth. 101 days. You should be grateful. Liam knocked the hand away. He only needed one good day. The red light returned around Avery's fingers and reached for his chest again. He trapped the wrist against the broken door and drove his shoulder forward. The weak-night body hit the wall. Mallory's tail rose between them. She aimed the point at him, but the tip shook. Avery glanced at her trembling weapon. "Your blood remembers who healed." Mallory's jaw locked. Her tail lowered 1 inch. Gray pre-dawn light reached the chamber threshold. Avery's shadow lengthened across the floor. At daylight, Avery continued. She would reclaim her heart. He would disappear with it. Mallory rushed between them. Scorpion tail raised toward him. Liam moved. It snapped. Avery looked at her as the red mark around Mallory's wrist opened. A matching line appeared across Avery's palm. Mallory dropped to one knee. Clutching her wound, Neil caught Mallory's shoulder before her face hit the stone. She shoved his hand away. Neil warned her about attacking him twice. Mixed messages. Mallory glared at Neil through her pain, telling him to leave anyway. The place Neil cut across Avery's palm flashed red. A bell answered beyond the dungeon wall. Avery turned toward the sound. The second ring came closer, and the third broke the wall. Black spider legs punched through stone, ripping the chamber wide open. Poison steamed across the floor as the dust settled. A woman stepped through the gap, a small black bell tied around her throat. 6 armored spider limbs moved behind her, each tipped with enough poison to end the conversation. She had a gorgeous face and a raid boss's body. In his defense, Neil prioritized the poison. The newcomer spread both arms toward Avery. "My beloved Avery," she breathed, finally finding him. Avery's expression went flat. "Gwen Talbot," Neil realized. Gwen smiled wider, claiming she missed Avery too much to Neil. Answered, wanting to devour him so he would belong only to her. Mallory stared at her. Neil stared at Avery. Avery looked offended by the quality of available followers. Gwen's bell rang again, spreading poison in a circle around them. She pointed a spider limb at Neil, growling that he carried Avery's scent. She would open him next. Great. The obsessive spider wanted to eat Neil's antidote first and inspect him second. He had seen worse schedules. None came to mind. Gwen lunged. Avery's night form tried to raise a hand, but magic flickered and died. Neil grabbed Avery's waist and drove his shoulder through the weakened wall. Avery struck his back, yelling to be put down. Brought 6 knives for dinner, though Avery denied Gwen was an admirer. A poison leg tore through the wall behind them. Neil jumped over it, following the black ridge map into a collapsing tunnel. As Gwen shouted, Neil told Avery that she was indeed an admirer. Gwen screamed, chasing after them. The map showed 3 routes, 2 ended under poison. Neil took the third, running across a broken bridge and kicking the last support after they cleared it. The bridge dropped between them and Gwen. She caught the edge with 2 spider limbs. The other 4 stabbed into the walls, holding her above the drop. Gwen laughed. Instead of falling, poison ran down the stone, and she told them to run. She called, yelling that every drop of Avery's blood pointed toward him. That explained the bell and ruined Neil's hope of hiding forever. He kept running. Avery weighed almost nothing in this weak form, but still twisted in Neil's arms, trying to break Neil's grip. Avery whispered that he needed him alive. Neil agreed. Then Avery told him to stop carrying him like baggage, as Neil jumped a widening crack. Behind them, Gwen's bell rang through the falling stone. The black ridge map guided Neil through an upper vent, across the ruined laser corridor, and out before daylight reached the lower chambers. By the time Gwen broke through the last collapse, they were inside West Haven, the human city. Surrounding the guild, early traffic had started around the guild district. Heroes in clean armor stared at Neil's torn clothes, the unconscious-looking woman in his arms and the purple blood on his chin. Nobody volunteered questions. Avery opens one eye, calling them a smart crowd who are absolutely terrified of him. They see the purple blood, the missing finger, and her in his arms, so they keep walking. Avery almost smiles. Pathetic. She literally murdered applicants just for being ugly. Standards matter. He carries Avery into the residential block right beside West Haven Heroes Guild, where patrols cover the gate and ranked heroes fill the towers. Gwen must fight them all. No choice. The barriers light up as they cross. Then the guild crest flashes white. Something behind his ribs jerks toward. The tower's hard enough to stop him. Heartlock flickers as the heart essence inside him burns, and a second pulse answers from somewhere beyond the gate. Avery's night form hand goes to her chest, her eyes following the pull from him to the guild crest. Avery smiles. He brought her here himself. She says the walls could slow Gwen, but they also let something sealed inside. The guild answered the missing heart inside him. He had carried the living antidote behind West Haven's strongest defenses, but he also brought Avery within reach of the exact thing she wanted. Before sunrise, he locks Avery inside his apartment beside West Haven Heroes Guild. Gwen has lost their trail. Outside Blackage, he wants guards, walls, and a few quiet minutes to keep his living antidote alive. Avery wants something else. Avery's weeknight form sits on his couch in the oversized black coat, pressing one hand to her chest. Gwen's poison left a mating curse, and Avery announces this body will die unless he shares life force with her before dawn. Talk about suspiciously convenient timing. Avery literally opened the system code to make this sales pitch completely unfair. The night form is gorgeous, delicate, and clearly designed by someone who hates his judgment. Honestly, he considers it a heroic sacrifice for almost 3 seconds, but then the first line of sunlight crosses the floor. Avery's shoulders widen, her soft voice drops, silver hair pulls back from a face becoming sharper by the second. The weak woman on his couch becomes Avery's powerful male day form. Red light rolls off him and rattles the windows. Far outside, Gwen's black bell answers. Once, he steps away incredibly fast. The coffee table loses a corner. Avery catches his sleeve, demanding an agreement he only considered. Avery tightens his grip. Your body moved closer. No, he argues, only feet moved. Avery pulls him toward the couch, red light gathering under his fingers. This fake curse has one purpose. Close contact gives Avery another chance to reach the heart inside him. He braces one foot against the table and pushes back. But watch this. A tiny red salamander falls from his torn coat, glowing red scales. Princess Odessa hits the carpet, rolls once, and expands until a full-sized demon woman stands between them, her recovered horns nearly striking the ceiling. Her armor has returned in strips, and her eyes go directly to Avery's hand on his sleeve. Odessa's tail snaps around his waist, pulling him away. Odessa demands her master feed her. Both men just stare in shock. He notes she called him master, but she warns him not to enjoy it. Too late. Her stomach growls loud enough to shake the broken coffee table, and Avery reaches for him again. Odessa slaps his hand aside with her tail, claiming she was here first. Avery's eyes narrow, pointing out she was just sleeping in his pocket. Odessa bares her teeth, claiming it is a superior position, tail rising. Avery's dark aura cracks the cabinet. Both of them look ready to fight over Liam. A kitchen he still has to clean. Fleeing the tension, he uses hunger as his escape. Food first, he tells Odessa, demon god debate later. Both follow close behind. But Odessa catches a sharp, chemical scent and detours into the bathroom. Suddenly, Liam hears liquid pouring. Tense, he turns back to find her crouched right beside the toilet, tipping a bottle of bright blue chemical cleaner into her mouth. He snatches it away. That is pure poison, he warns. Licking a blue drop, Odessa insists it is delicious. It removes stains, so your food should fear it, Liam groans. Honestly, he had watched this woman fight a demon lord, yet she still prefers chemical cleaner over actual human groceries. He carries the bottle away and frantically hands her everything edible from the cluttered refrigerator. She happily devours cold meat, half a loaf of bread, and mystery leftovers he had been too terrified to identify last week. Meanwhile, Avery leans against the kitchen doorway now, fully in his male day form. My turn, Avery demands. Odessa slowly looks up from her plate. Wait, Avery's red aura flares up, cracking another cabinet. Odessa just keeps chewing. Liam respects the confidence, but hey, he still owns those cabinets. Avery strides across the room and grabs Liam by his collar. You carried me here, Avery says. You drank my blood and promised contact. Liam snaps back that Avery lied about dying. Avery tightens his grip, whispering he can make the exchange pleasant. Liam quickly retorts that he is just trying to steal his organs. His flirting needs serious work. Avery pulls. The last intact seam on his shirt rips from collar to waist. His pants tear down one side as he twists free. Suddenly, Heartlock chimes. The wardrobe breaker's 12-hour return cycle ends at this exact moment. Apparently, System HR is back from lunch. The wardrobe breaker task is back. Liam must greet 33 people before the countdown ends, or his stats and system access remain suspended until completion. Failure means the punishment realm. Suddenly, his strength vanishes. The kitchen floor no longer feels fragile under his feet. His body drops all the way back to F rank. Avery still holds his shredded shirt. Now Liam has a shredded pair of pants, one single strip of fabric, and 33 strangers to greet. The prompt flashes a grim view of the punishment realm, showing hooks and fire. Choosing public humiliation instead, Liam wraps the remaining fabric around his waist, pulls the torn shirt over his face, and bolts for the street. Odessa yells for him to bring dessert, while Avery's commanding voice echoes to come back. Liam keeps running. The public square right beside the guild is packed with breakfast grills and countless witnesses. Perfect. He waves at the first vendor, who throws a ladle. Greetings, one of 33. He then greets 2 delivery workers while one covers his eyes and the other screams for a guard. By greeting 10, 3 off-duty heroes are actively chasing him, and some guy has raised barbecue tongs like a sword. Honestly, pretty fair. An old man lowers his newspaper, looks straight at him, and raises one slow thumb. Greetings, 11 of 33. Liam salutes him. The man chose chaos before breakfast. Respect. Liam clears a park bench and waves through the crowd. One hero grabs for the makeshift mask on his face. Liam ducks, greets him mid-miss, and lets him crash straight into the barbecue tong guy. Greetings, 19 of 33. Fruit cart blocks the next lane. Liam slides right over, greets the owner, and loses the last respectable piece of his disguise. Greetings, 24 of 33. The furious owner hurls an orange. Liam catches it, waves, and pockets it. Petty rewards totally count. Suddenly, a scream. Over on the far side of the square, the chase completely changes. A black spider the size of a motorcycle punched through a metal canopy. Its sharp front leg drove deep into the pavement where a family had been standing. The terrified crowd scattered. His system remained locked, and F-Rank had no business fighting that monster. He still needed 9 more greetings. A street fighter grabbed the spider around its front shell, dragging it far away from the screaming civilians. The creature raised its deadly stinger behind him. He ran past, caught his free hand, and yelled good morning. The fighter looked at his masked face, his lack of clothes, and the hand he had just stolen mid-battle. What is wrong with you? The fighter screamed. Greetings, 25 of 33. His grip slipped, and the spider threw him into a food stand. An A-rank guild guard rushed across the square, cutting the spider in half before the stinger could land. The guard turned his blade toward him, yelling to stay down, pervert. He waved, calling out greeting 26 of 33. The guard's expression turned personal. Behind him stood Lel Grady, the aging vice president of the West Haven Heroes Guild. His golden badge had cleared a path through the panic, and 3 elite guards were Trying to move him toward cover, Lel spotted him and looked exhausted. He waved at the three staring guards, delivering greeting 29 of 33. Suddenly, a dark bell tolled. Above them, Gwen landed on the roof of a delivery truck, her 6 spider limbs unfolding across the metal. Poison dripped from every point, burning 8 holes. Through the truck bed, Gwen's eyes locked onto Lel's gold badge. You lead. This nest, she hissed, asking where Avery was. The guard stepped between her and Lel. The guard warned she picked the wrong district. Gwen smiled, calling him weak, and flicked a single drop of poison. The guard blocked with his sword, but the venom ran along the blade, dissolving his gauntlet and burning through the armor beneath. He collapsed before his second swing. Another defender rushed from Lel's left, Gwen's. Web caught him in midair. Poison crossed the threads, turning his armor black as he stopped moving before he hit the street. The square stopped chasing him. Gwen stepped over both defenders and moved toward Lel. He greeted 3 civilians, fleeing past him, marking greeting 32 of 33. Lel was the only person still facing him. Gwen's poison leg rose behind him. He pointed at his covered face. Vice President, look at him. Lel snapped that he was looking and regretted it. He waved. Greetings 33 of 33. Task complete. His clothes returned in a burst of silver. Light power slammed back into his muscles as Heartlock reopened. The square cracked under his next step. The man with the barbecue tongs lowered them. The off-duty heroes who had chased him stopped and looked toward Gwen instead. Public opinion had completed a very fast patch update. Lel stared at his F-rank badge. Then at the crater under his boot. The system dropped a weapon card into his vision. He slapped it before Gwen's leg reached Lel. Weapon acquired. Echo. Touch. A silver line wrapped around his right index finger. He caught Gwen's poison limb and threw her through the truck. She tore free, landing on all 6 legs and looked at him with sudden interest. Heartlock pulsed, showing a target was available. Gwen Talbot. He locked her. Gwen's bell rang against her throat. Avery Thief, she whispered. Your scent is inside my beloved. Leave my scent out of your romance, she charged. He touched the pavement beside his foot. Gwen jerked sideways as if the same pressure had struck along her leg. Her surprised cry triggers an invisible blast, slamming her chest and throwing her right across the square. The Heartlock display registers 12%. That answers the first rule. Echo touch maps nearby surfaces onto Gwen. Her voice turns that sensation into force. Lel grips a nearby cart, staring at his finger and asking what technique that is, the live testing kind. Gwen rises, poison steaming around her feet, her side armor already cracked. Heartlock raises her favorability. Hurling trucks really works. That raised monster favorability, and she understands enough to get furious. Gwen points a poison leg at him, accusing him of carrying Avery's heart scent. She absolutely hates that he's touching her with that filthy trick. 6 legs and still jealous. Favorability climbs again. Gwen smiles dangerously, promising to keep his scent after she devours Avery. A web suddenly snaps around his wrist, while another catches his ankle. Gwen pulls both lines hard, dragging him across the pavement straight toward a pool of poison. The toxic edge eats right through his boot, sending searing heat climbing his ankle. He tears the web loose, his boosted defense barely slowing the pain. Gwen notices his limp and spreads all 6 legs, mocking him for breaking so easily. But he just grabs the web around his wrist and yanks back hard. Gwen braces all 6 legs for a pull, but he uses the line to swing himself high. Landing on the low wall, he drags his marked finger across the stone. Gwen arches her back as a loud cry shatters every window nearby. The scream meter hits 43% while she clamps her hands shut. He touches the wall again, but this time no sound escapes her. Oh, this looks bad. Gwen realizes she has solved his trick. She taps the silk over her mouth, pointing right at his finger. Without a scream, his strongest attack barely works on her anymore. Then Gwen stamps a heavy spider limb directly into the pavement. Poison erupts through the cracks, splitting the square in half as Lel screams out a warning. He orders everyone to clear the square quickly. The guards stop attacking Gwen, dragging terrified civilians to safety. 3 layers of thick spider silk now completely seal her mouth shut. She floods the square with poison, driving him back toward the buildings. The corrosive green cloud melts everything, while the guards drag Lel clear. He leaps onto a window ledge as Gwen climbs up after him faster than any human. She fires web after web, forcing him high up the wall and onto the roof. Her sealed mouth makes his hits useless, barely budging the scream meter. He needs to trigger a reaction she cannot possibly hold back forever. The deep alley below is trapped with poison gas blocking both exits. He leaps from the roof, pressing one hand against each wall on his way down. He drags both of his palms along the brick for the entire drop. Echo touch channels every single inch of force straight into Gwen at once. Her jaw shakes as the meter climbs past 50, then 70%. She stabs all 6 legs into the pavement, desperately trying to hold the rising scream inside. At 90%, her collar cracks. At 100, the silk tears. Gwen screams at 100%, unleashing chaos. In the alley, poison sweeps across the street as Gwen's magic vanishes. The black bell shatters across the pavement while her 6 spider limbs fold inward. By the time he hits the pavement, the massive boss monster has shrunk into a spider small enough to fit right on his palm. The shocked crowd watching nearby saw the city-killing spider boss shrink into a palm-sized pet. One guard lowers his sword. The old man, holding a newspaper, raises his thumb again. Gwen even tries to bite his finger. Heartlock chimes. Gwen Talbot. Favorability 100%. Conquest complete. New skill acquired. Toxic fusion. Home drop unlocked. This new ability could coat weapon with Gwen's poison. Home drop opens a route to his apartment. He taps. Miniature Gwen vanishes from his palm. Gwen Talbot is sent home. Princess Odessa's room. That sounds safe for absolutely nobody. Lel reaches the alley with 2 of his surviving guards, looking at the melted street, the broken bell and the empty space in his palm. The guard who called him a pervert earlier quickly lowers his weapon. A woman from the breakfast crowd points at the crater and tells the guard he saved everyone. The man opens his mouth, stares at the crater, and shuts it again. Then Lel stares at his rank badge and asks who taught him that touch technique. He flexes his sore fingers, thinking of System HR, that terrible instructor. Suddenly, blood spreads across the brick wall behind him. Mallory's red portal opens inside the pooling blood. Avery steps through in his powerful day form. His hand clamps around the back of his head, accusing him of running from his promise. Bad timing. The original owner of the Heartlock system is back to collect his power. On the ruined street beside West Haven Heroes Guild, he catches Avery's wrist before the demon god can wrench his head back. The daytime form deity had used Mallory's blood mark to step through the wall behind him. Gwen's poison still smokes in the alley, and Lel's guards are still clearing civilians away. Avery ignores absolutely everyone else, whispering directly into his ear that he ran away. He twists the demon's wrist away, firing back that Avery lied about the curse. Before sunrise, the god looked completely different and claimed he was dying. Both details matter. Avery's mouth tightens. Sudden red light rolls over his body. The tall male form shifts into a woman with silver cat ears and a black tail. The disguise is gorgeous and insanely effective, but he still sees through Avery. The shapeshifter slides one arm around his neck and tugs his wrist. Your pulse disagrees, Avery purrs, but he retorts that his pulse also reacts to poison. It just has low standards. Avery's cat ears lower, teasing him about Odessa. He shrugs. Odessa only tried to kill him before breakfast. Avery promises to improve. That is deadly flirting from a demon god who offers murder with every smile. Avery's tail curls around his wrist, pulling his hand toward the demon's chest. Red light slips under the fur, tracing his veins. He twists free, and Avery changes once more, copying the weeknight form that opened the Black Ridge door. This face almost convinced you, Avery whispers, reminding him that it lied about a curse. The disguise smiles, telling him to choose a prettier lie. He drives his elbow between them to make space. Avery can change the face, the body, and the voice, but the master remains a demon god, trying to dissolve him for spare parts. He plants his foot and stops the pull. Avery's smile thins. The Heartlock system belongs to the demon, who warns that his heart and body are merely temporary. Temporary containers charge storage fees, so he has to collect everything. Avery presses his palm flat against Liam's chest, high above the alleyway. The West Haven Guild crest flashes white again. The pole behind his ribs snaps. Avery's crimson symbols follow it straight into Heartlock, the sealed guild anchor gives him a direct path to the missing essence. For a second, every system panel vanishes. Avery smiles, but Heartlock rejects the connection. Red magic crosses his skin, disappearing without ever touching. The core. Heartlock flashes back with 3 lines. Original claimant rejected. Current host confirmed as Liam Corbett. Hostile actions from Avery Crowell. Nullified. Avery's fingers freeze against his chest. Those cat ears vanish. The Male dayform snaps right back into place. He tries again. A red blade forms over. His hand touches Liam's throat and dissolves into harmless sparks. Avery sweeps the same blade sideways, cutting a delivery card in half, crossing his ribs, and vanishing right across his shirt without leaving a mark. The surviving guild guards raise their weapons. Avery flicks 2 fingers, a violent pressure wave, slams them against the alley wall, but the same wave hits Liam and disappears. Avery grabs his throat, pouring crimson fire through his palm. The flames eat circle into the pavement around his boots, but his skin stays cold. Lel's remaining guard looks from scorched stone to his untouched shirt and slowly lowers his sword, backing toward Lel and completely stopping his attempts to treat Liam as a threat. Avery sees it and takes a step back, seriously, watching a demon god get completely locked out of his own system is hilarious. Talk about ultimate expired password energy. Lel watches the failed attack from the alley entrance. His vice president badge is still gripped in one hand, while the other hangs limp as he stares at Liam's frank badge. Avery ignores him, looking straight into Liam's eyes. What did you do to it? Liam just spreads his hands. Apparently it likes him better. Avery's calm finally breaks. Avery is still within 10 meters, and Heartlock opens another option. Absorption chance available. Cost is 50% of remaining life. Condition: Avery Crowell within 10 meters. Reward is full detoxification if forced lock succeeds. One chance costing half of his remaining life, and that demon god is right there. He accepts before Avery can even twitch, dying in 101 days. Still dying, agony tears through his chest. The number changes. Estimated life remaining approximately 50 days. A black targeting ring opens right beneath Avery's feet as Heartlock reaches out. The dark ring climbs from the pavement round his ankles, locking one crimson segment at a time. Avery tries to strike him again, but his magic fizzles out completely. Liam steps closer, his turn now. Fear finally registers on the demon's face. The ring reaches his knees. Avery's eyes snap toward a blood mark in the brickwork. Avery slices his palm with a claw. The exact same wound opens on the bloody mark nearby. Mallory cries out. From somewhere just beyond it, crimson smoke floods the alley. Liam lunges before the forced lock can snap shut. His fingers catch Avery's sleeve, but the fabric turns to blood, slipping right through his grip. Avery vanishes into Mallory's matching wound, leaving the targeting ring to collapse empty. Heartlock keeps a red location signal burning at the edge of Liam's vision. Avery's voice echoes through the fading blood. Link, you can still track me. Mallory answers from the other side. A frantic voice asks Avery what happened to Liam, keeping the link open. It is long enough for Avery to hear. Avery's voice softens, admitting direct attacks will no longer work. Avery agrees to stop attacking him, closing the blood mark. Avery has stopped promising violence, but the method remains hidden. Meanwhile, the next smiling face deserves suspicion. A red signal begins moving across West Haven. He runs. 2 streets later, the poison flares. Purple blood fills his mouth. His right foot burns inside the boot. The little toe goes numb, turns black, and breaks apart before he can pull the boot off. He hits. One knee hits the pavement, cuts open along both arms. The red signal blurs into 3 copies. Honestly, 50 days sounded way better on a screen. His body disagrees. He tries to stand. One step puts him against the wall. A second tears the bandage from his missing finger. The poison has started collecting pieces. Again, heavy boots pound. Lel catches his shoulder before he hits the ground and shouts for the guild medics, barking that he saved this district when one medic hesitates at his F-rank badge. Touch the badge again and you answer to me. The medic moves. Everything tilts. The last thing he sees is Lel lifting his ruined boot away from the spreading purple stain. 13 hours later, he wakes in West Haven's infirmary. His toe is bandaged, but the poison remains. Lel Grady sits beside the bed, wearing the same gold vice president badge Gwen had. Nearly buried with him, the moment his eyes open, Lel stands. Then the vice president of West Haven Heroes Guild bows to an F-rank. Master, Lel says, teach me the touch technique. He checks the room for witnesses. A medic at the door stops, pretending to organize bandages. He notes Lel is the vice president. He tells him. Lel remains bowed, saying titles cannot repair what age takes from a man. Lel glances at the medic by the door, who suddenly finds the ceiling fascinating. Lel lowers his voice. He had strength and speed once, plus certain other responses were more reliable. He looks at Lel's gray hair and his embarrassed expression, asking if Lel thinks Echo Touch can restore his Personal functions. Lel's ears turn red, admitting he saw what it did to that spider. Monster, he says that is no answer. Lel holds his stare, declaring it is the answer he is giving. The man has survived poison, public chaos, and his 33rd greeting finally running completely out of dignity. He leans back against the pillow. The technique is complicated, which is true since he had learned it. While falling down a building, Lel looks up. I can learn, he says. Echo. Touch comes through a weapon he no longer has. Lel cannot copy it by watching him. Lel finally straightens. Every technique has a principle, and his has an abusive employer. Lel asks to be taught how to survive. The employer, the vice president, is fully committed, and honestly, that level of desperation deserves a business proposal. He tells Lel that he needs something first. Lel's posture changes. Immediately, his shoulders straightening. The guild vice president is back. He gives Lel Avery's description, and the last direction the red signal moved. Lel must use guild resources to quietly find Avery Crowell, keeping Captain Von Hiller away from his medical file. Lel places one fist over his chest, agreeing that until Lel understands Echo Touch properly, his training stays private. Lel bows again, calling him master, while the medic drops some bandages. Before Liam could enjoy his new status, the door flew open. Marcy Bellows stepped inside, holding a black-edged warrant alongside two guild guards. As Lel's secretary, the paper she carried placed Liam's name right next to death. Marcy caught the end of Lel's bow, looking from his gold badge to Liam's F-rank token. Looking back again, she delivered the blow. Captain Vaughn filed emergency desertion charges. She said Vaughn claims Liam abandoned Black Ridge. Blaming him for the entire squad's deaths, the coward requested immediate execution. Vaughn spun cowardice into Liam's guilt. A guard reached for cuffs. Before they could move, Lel placed his vice president badge on the blanket. Liam is under my personal supervision, Lel declared. Nobody detains him. The first guard froze. The second moved behind Marcy instead of Liam's bed. Marcy laid the warrant next to Lel's badge, warning the order remained active. Until Black Ridge is reviewed, Vaughn can still act if Liam leaves this room. Liam tapped Vaughn's name, asking if he mentioned ordering the squad into Rowena's beam. Marcy glanced at Liam's missing digits, noting the report mentioned no boss named Rowena. Of course it did not. Vaughn had erased every detail that made him look guilty. Lel pulled an invitation from his coat and set it right on the bed. Liam stays with me, Lel declared, and he is still attending tonight's appreciation banquet. Liam looked at the death warrant lying right next to his dinner invitation. Execution and dinner scheduled together, a pretty efficient office, Liam thought. Marcy almost smiled, saying West Haven values organization, but a deeper game was playing out. Before sunrise, Roland Hella had already received the guild's grim casualty report. Roland was Vaughn's older brother and his partner in smuggling. A red audit flag now marked the column for their stolen resources. Slamming the report at Vaughn, he ordered him to blame every death on the F-rank. Vaughn raised his empty sleeve, whining that Liam had attacked him in front of everyone. Call it desertion or murder, Roland smirked. Just demand his execution immediately. Vaughn worried about survivors, but Roland dismissed the threat. Injured witnesses can easily be called confused, but they needed Liam permanently silenced. Unfortunately for them, Liam was still very much alive, resting back in his infirmary bed. Lel's badge bought him a little time, maybe a single night at best. The cowardly captain had his armed men. He just needed Liam to step outside. The warrant still sat on Liam's blanket when Hartlock suddenly tracked down Avery. The tracker's red signal had stopped right outside Liam's apartment in West Haven. Lel's badge kept Liam safe in here, but out there was a different story. The second he left, Captain Vaughn could throw him in chains and call it justice. Then the tracker pulsed twice, right where Odessa and little Gwen were supposed to be. Liam swung his legs off the bed, but Lel immediately locked the door behind them. Liam warned him that Avery was near his apartment, and Odessa was likely in danger. Marcy stood by the wall, reminding him that the arrest warrant remained fully active. Vaughn would arrest him the moment he stepped outside Vice President Grady's sight. Liam forced his boot over his wounded foot. The coward could chase him later. Lel lowered his voice, begging his master to at least take some guards along. Liam looked at the very guards who had almost chained him 13 hours ago. It will only slow me down, Liam told him. Keep Vaughn busy with Black Ridge. Lel stepped aside, knowing he was going regardless, leaving Gabe Vans. Goon's a legal excuse to snatch him. He left anyway, at his apartment, the front. Door stood wide open. Tiny Gwen sat on the kitchen counter beside an overturned bowl. The defeated spider boss raised two front legs when he entered, ready to strike first and ask questions later, but Odessa was gone. He checked the bedroom, bathroom, and the shattered window. The place held no blood or body, her usual threats were missing too. Gwen scurried across the counter, tapping the floor. With one leg, a red smear marked the floorboards near the window, pointing to a black metal cuff lying beneath the curtain. Anti-monster restraints, Avery's signal. Headed west while he lay unconscious in the hospital, someone broke in and dragged Odessa out in anti-monster cuffs. That tracking signal was his only lead. He trailed the signal through the West Haven warehouse district with Gwen tucked inside his coat. Leaving a toxic spider boss home alone had already failed once. She nipped his coat whenever he slowed. Relax, he whispered. Gwen clicked her legs against his ribs. You are the size of a coin, he muttered. Calm down, she bit harder. Fair point. By nightfall, the signal reached an abandoned loading dock just past the West Haven barrier. The sun dipped. Avery shifted into his weeknight form, and the red tracking mark completely vanished. The second he crossed the barrier, the overdue return cycle of Echo Touch caught up. Heartlock granted him just 2 minutes before his borrowed power dropped to his lowest public Fank baseline. Temporary combat support reset. 2 minutes left. Men stepped from behind the massive cargo containers. Their jackets bore the Night Spur gang patch. This shady crew ran illegal monster and human auctions. One guard held the other half of the restraint cuff stolen from his apartment. The captain pointed a hooked blade at him, calling him a wrong-yard Fank. He held up the broken metal. Wrong apartment, he countered, asking where the captives were. The captain glanced down, hiding his reaction behind a smirk. That was answer enough. The captain saw him checking empty air and laughed. He is counting how many bones we will break. 2 minutes, he warned them. The captain spread his arms, asking if he could really last 2 minutes. He advised running. The guy chose violence instead. Naturally, the first guard charged with a shock baton. He stepped inside the swing, driving his shoulder straight through his chest. The goon hit a container hard enough to dent it. 1 minute and 47 seconds. 2 men rushed from his left. He grabbed a wrist, redirecting his blade straight into the other's restraint chain, kicking both across the cold concrete. Then a net launcher fired from behind. Gwen leaped from his coat, biting clean through the thick firing cable. She slipped back inside before the gunner realized why his weapon failed. He pointed at the smoking launcher, warning that his pocket had strong opinions. The gunner dropped it. 1 minute 23 seconds. The captain backed toward the office door, shoving everyone else forward. Same management style as Vaughn, just a different jacket. One thug swung an iron hook at his missing finger. He caught the forearm, slamming him face first across the auction ledger table. Another tried to slap a collar around his neck, but he snapped it shut around the thug's own wrist, using him to block a baton strike. The two attackers collided and collapsed together. 58 seconds left. The captain reached the office. He hurled the hooked blade. It pinned the man's sleeve to the door. He yanked. The gang captain tears his jacket and bolts, throwing his tough guy confidence away. Liam corners him, slamming his back against the heavy door. He demands the key, but the captive just spits. The auction is starting. He laughs until Gwen crawls ominously onto Liam's shoulder. Fangs open, pooling deadly green poison. That cocky smile vanishes in a second. With a trembling finger, he points beneath the office desk. Liam drops him. Only 21 seconds remain on his timer. He grabs the key ring, kicking open the rear stairwell door. A concrete path leads underground, where one last guard stands in his way. Liam drops the guard before the timer hits 0. Suddenly, his boosted strength fades fast, causing his knees to buckle under the strain. The final guard is out cold, so he drags him along. The heavy body thuds down the steps toward a locked steel door. Liam unlocks it, tossing the unconscious guard inside ahead of him. The man slides across the dirty floor, stopping right beneath the cages. Liam calls out, announcing that new management is here. Odessa looks up from her cage, heavy anti-moan cuffs pinning her. Though forced to her knees, her eyes still scream royal murder. She breathes his name in relief, before instantly turning it into anger. She snaps that he took too long, so Liam quickly gets to work on her locks. He jokes about his speed, asking her for a fair review. Odessa whispers a sarcastic reply. Nearby, another cage holds a terrified captive. A woman in a torn gray dress watches their every move. She looks completely exhausted, yet she is incredibly beautiful. Honestly, did her captors actually hire a personal stylist? The woman begs him softly, asking him not to leave her behind. Liam notices the same heavy anti-moan cuffs, locking her wrists to the wall. Is she a victim or a monster in disguise? Before he can decide, Hartlock throws up a ridiculous new task prompt. He must deliver 10 loud swats to complete the return. Any silent attempt triggers a 5-minute freeze. Talk about an awkward system rule. Odessa reads his expression and asks what the system wants now. He unlocks one cuff, explaining that he needs 10 loud reactions to pass. Odessa smirks, advising him to choose someone loud for the job. She lifts her chin, offering to let him have one free swat. She warns him to do it before she changes her mind. Liam turns her sideways and gives her skirt one firm swat, making her yelp. She glares back. That makes 1 out of 10 successfully completed. Her tail snaps around his waist, threatening to take his hand if he talks. Classic monster princess gratitude. He finally removes her second cuff. Odessa stands up, grabs his collar, and bites the side of his neck. Red light flows from his skin into her mouth as her magic returns. The bite hurts, and Liam quietly mutters that she could have warned him first. Wiping her fang, she claims she warned him months ago as magic glows. She touches his missing left finger, promising to repay the borrowed essence. As protection when he needs it, that sounds useful enough to survive the invoice later. The woman in the second cage reaches through the bars, begging. For help, she promises to repay Liam in any way he wants. Odessa's eyes narrow. This woman has soft eyes, shaking hands, and exactly the offer Avery would. Weaponized, still her cuffs are real. Liam opens the cage and unlocks one wrist. She clings to his sleeve, thanking him. He keeps his other hand on the key, kneading. Just one sound before they move. The captive heard every rule he gave Odessa, her fear. Turns into a wrong smile, but he still makes the attempt. He gives the back of her dress one quick, controlled swat. She stays silent. Hartlock flashes red, silent attempt, penalty active, 5 minutes, every muscle. In his body locks, he stays standing, frozen completely mid-breath by the system. The woman lets go of his sleeve and stands straight, her shaking gone. 5 minutes, she murmurs, that is generous. Odessa lunges, but the woman slips behind. His frozen body, using him as a shield, Odessa stops her claws inches from his face. He can only move his eyes and force out a whisper. The fake captive runs a finger along his jaw, teasing him about rescuing pretty strangers. He wonders when that habit would become useful. Odessa's tail lashes the bars. Get away from him, the woman smiles, reminding Odessa they were trapped together for hours without her noticing. Odessa's face flushes with rage. Good, jealousy is making the disguise talk. Odessa steps close and bites his neck again, feeding. While he cannot object, red light pours into her, the promised protection gathers beneath his skin like a warm second pulse. The fake captive's smile disappears. Share, she demands. Odessa keeps her arm locked around him, claiming she found him first. The fake captive scoffs, pointing out Odessa tried to take his head first. Odessa just tightens her grip, claiming that still counts. The fake captive presses against his other side and opens a thin red mark across her palm. The same pressure closes around his waist from somewhere unseen. A familiar, crushing grip pins his ribs. It is tight, precise, and shaped like Mallory's signature scorpion hold. From behind the black ridge wall, the woman inhales at the exact moment the invisible grip tightens. This is blood resonance. Mallory is inside the link. Liam forces sound through his frozen throat, telling Mallory Fitch to pull Avery out. The woman goes still. A second voice comes through the red mark. Mallory sounds breathless, asking how he knew. Nobody else grips him like a hostile seat. Belt, he rasps. Hearing the name, Odessa tears at the woman's sleeve, splitting the disguise. Under her claws, red light glows beneath false skin, revealing Avery's knight form, eyes looking back at him for one clean second. There she is. The frightened captive is actually the living antidote who wants his heart. Avery smiles anyway, teasing him for recognizing Mallory first. She claims she should be offended, but he retorts that her disguise was better than her manners. The freeze timer reaches 4 minutes. Odessa pulls Avery away from him, but Avery catches Odessa's wrist. As the blood mark flares brighter, Liam looks directly into it. Mallory, pull Avery out now, he warns. Odessa will feed until the leash shares every second of this. Mallory swears under her breath. The blood mark opens across Avery's shoulder, and red hands drag her backward into it. Odessa holds on until Avery's false dress tears at the sleeve. Avery vanishes entirely. The link snapped and the mark closed, leaving Odessa to glare at the empty air. He remained frozen. The penalty still had 4 minutes left, and Hartlock clearly intended to squeeze out every second. Odessa searched the hallway and dragged the unconscious guard across the doorway as a barricade. Then she stood protectively beside his locked body. With her claws ready, Odessa told him that since he rescued her, she would guard him until this ridiculous punishment ended. Liam could only blink. Blink once if you agree that I won the argument, she teased. Liam stared. Odessa nodded, accepting his silent agreement. The Pocket Princess learned contract law from System HR. What a terrible combination. Heavy boots stomped across the loading floor above them. Odessa's tail tightened around the door handle. The gang reinforcements reached the stairwell, spotting their captain. And the guards scattered outside and quickly chose survival over another shift. Their footsteps retreated. Finally, the timer reached 0, ending the freeze penalty. His muscles released instantly. Liam staggered and caught the cage, but the mission still read only 1 out of 10. Avery had escaped, but Odessa was free, leaving him with a new safety rule. Attractive strangers met after dark definitely required background checks and probably some holy water. Her fierce clash with Avery had drained most of the essence she had taken. She shrank back into her tiny pocket form and climbed into his coat before they left the holding site. Night had fully settled by the time Odessa and Liam left the loading yard. Since his warrant was still active, he took the absolute fastest route. Through the West Haven security gate, Marcy stood bravely between Captain Vaughn and the city entrance. Vaughn had brought along armed guild men and that same death warrant. His empty sleeve was pinned beneath his captain's coat, while his remaining hand rested on his sword. Marcy held a fresh note as tightly against her chest, stating Blackridge was found collapsed and empty. The desertion order is being revoked, so you cannot arrest Liam while this notice is active. Vaughn looked past her and spotted Liam, losing it. Hand had clearly not improved his judgment. There is my murderer, Vaughn announced. Several guards shifted toward Liam, but Marcy kept her ground, warning Vaughn to stop. Vice President Grady placed him under supervision. Vaughn stepped dangerously close. You are just a secretary carrying paper. Move. Marcy held it higher, refusing, but Vaughn slapped her across the face. The harsh sound cut through the gate as Marcy hit the railing and caught herself with one hand. The notice fell right beside her shoe. Nobody laughed. Nobody moved. Vaughn pointed at her with his remaining hand. Call me a liar again, and I will put you in the same cell, he threatened. Marcy touched the red mark on her cheek. Liam walked between them. Vaughn had nearly killed Alyssa before because he treated low-ranking hunters as entirely disposable. Now he had struck Marcy just for standing in his way. Liam picked up the dropped notice and handed it back to her. Go to Lel, he told Marcy, and bring his authorization here in 10 minutes. Marcy looked at the heavily armed men surrounding them. They will take you, she warned. I know, Liam said. She understood, her eyes sharpening. He added, come back for your apology. Vaughn laughed, mocking the idea that the vice president would ever leave his banquet for an F rank. Liam turned and offered him both wrists. 10 minutes, he told the captain. Try not to waste them. Vaughn snapped the restraints shut. Himself, Vaughn smiled like he had finally earned a real victory, marching his prisoner straight through the gate and into the dark interrogation wing. The door closed heavily behind them. On the table beneath the clock, his remaining hand reached for a heavy hammer. Inside the interrogation room, Captain Vaughn forced Liam's left hand down. Beneath the hammer, the wall clock showed 9 minutes and 40 seconds. His 9 armed men filled the doorway while Odessa stayed hidden inside Liam's coat. Vaughn wanted a confession before Marcy returned with Lel, Captain Credit Paste. Before his squad, and retold Blackridge as his own hero story. He fought Roe in a lone, Vaughn announced. I lost my hand shielding the team. Liam attacked me from behind and caused every death. One soldier stared at Vaughn's empty sleeve. Another looked at the restraints around Liam's wrists. They had survived the real room. Vaughn still expected applause for the fanfiction. Vaughn leaned over him. Tell them Liam, do cowards deserve to live? He looked at his empty sleeve. Ask the men you pushed into the beam. He spread Liam's fingers across the wood. The missing pinky left an empty space at the edge. Vaughn tapped that space with the hammer. The poison started the work. I will finish it. Liam stopped smiling. Inside his coat, Odessa whispered against his chest. The essence I took restored enough magic for one shield. Her tiny claws pressed into his shirt. You rescued me, Odessa added. This is the repayment. The rest remains debt. Red warmth spread beneath his skin and wrapped his hand. The warmth reached his fingers before Vaughn swung. Good. He still needed Vaughn to commit. He looked at him. Do it. The clock showed 8 minutes. He brought the hammer down across his fingers. The strike cracked the tabletop. His hands stayed flat beneath. The hammer, the skin stayed clean. Every bone remained whole, even a bruise refused to appear. Vaughn froze, completely stunned with the handle still clenched. His eyes moved. From Liam's untouched hand to the squad, nobody gave him the shock he wanted. The nearest man stared at the cracked table instead. One soldier leaned forward. Another stepped away from the table. Liam flexed his fingers under the hammerhead. Was that the confession? Liam asked. Vaughn turned toward his squad. You see, no regret, no loyalty. He crawled out, carrying the squad's honor, a guard. Near the door lowered his eyes. Liam glanced at the men behind him. Did he carry any of you? Nobody answered. Liam nodded at the hammer. You brought hammer to edit a report. Vaughn's face twisted. This is discipline. Liam glanced at his last hand. This is your one remaining hand, making bad career choices. One guard let his restraint chain fall back against his belt. Vaughn lifted the hammer and checked the metal, as if the tool had betrayed him. His first hit had carried his full shoulder. The cracked table proved it. Odessa's shield pulsed once beneath Liam's knuckles. Vaughn swung again. The hammer bounced from Liam's hand and tore itself from his grip. It hit the wall behind him. A guard flinched. Vaughn did not look back. Beautiful, 2 full swings had failed to leave a bruise. The outer door opened a few inches. A junior guard held up a sealed notice. Captain, the revocation arrived. Secretary Bellows is returning with Vice President Grady. Vaughn crossed the room and caught the door before it opened wider. Hold it outside, he ordered. Nobody enters until the prisoner confesses. The guard hesitated. Vaughn gripped the man's collar with his remaining hand. That is a direct order. The guard backed away without a salute. The guard left. Vaughn slammed the door shut. Now Vaughn knew the warrant was dying. He chose the hammer anyway. He picked it up and returned to the table. The clock showed 6 minutes. Vaughn struck Liam's knuckles again. For the third time, Odessa's protective shield flashes red, splitting the hammer's handle. Half of the handle stays in Vaughn's hand, while the metal head rolls across the floor. It stops right beside his boot. Nobody speaks as Liam lifts his completely untouched hand. Looking at the cracked table, he calmly tells Vaughn his interrogation is losing parts. Vaughn grabs the broken handle and tries to stab it right through Liam's palm. It snaps against Odessa's shield. Inside his coat, her tiny body trembles. The red warmth around Liam's hand thins down to a single flickering protective layer. Her protection has a limit, and Vaughn has almost spent it. One more, Odessa whispers. After that, break him yourself. Her priorities are still excellent. Vaughn's breathing quickens. 2 soldiers back away from the table, while a third hesitates. Keeping his hands open, the soldier flinches as Vaughn demands why they are standing there. He orders them to restrain him. Nobody moves. Vaughn points at the nearest soldier. Declaring it is an order, the soldier only looks at the door. His captain bars shine on his coat, but nobody reaches for Liam. The clock hits 3 minutes. The door flies off its hinges as Lel Grady kicks it inward, Marcy right behind. With 2 guild guards in tow, the shattered door slams the wall. Vaughn jumps back. He narrowly avoids tripping over the metal hammerhead. Lel stands holding the revocation notice. His golden guild badge catches the ceiling light as he issues a direct order. Lel demands Liam Corbett's release, but Vaughn only brandishes his broken hammer handle. Vaughn protests that Liam murdered his squad, but Lel calmly steps over the broken door. He explains that the warrant was officially revoked before Vaughn's third strike. As Marcy enters behind him, the red mark still crosses her cheek. The nearest guard steps toward Marcy. Seeing this, Vaughn turns desperately to his men. He demands they tell the vice president exactly what happened at Black Ridge. Instead, the first soldier stares at the floor, while another steps away from Vaughn. A third soldier even takes his hand off his sword. Vaughn's voice cracks in desperation. They look at Lel instead. Lel examines Liam's uninjured hand and the shattered table. Looking at the broken hammerhead, Lel's jaw tightens as he addresses Captain Vaughn. He accuses him of abusing guild authority, but Vaughn quickly points at Liam. He claims Liam surrendered willingly. Liam calmly agrees, drawing every eye in the room. Lel's authority can end this arrest, but Liam has a much more personal motive. Standing up, he tosses the metal restraints onto the table. Liam notes that Vaughn ignored the revocation, but offers to waive the entire complaint. Hearing this, a wave of instant, almost painful relief washes over Vaughn's face. While Marcy and Lel stare in shock, Liam raises a finger, setting one condition. Vaughn's relief vanishes as Liam turns to look at the guards who followed him. He demands that every soldier who stood behind Vaughn must bow and apologize to Marcy. They must apologize for letting Vaughn strike her. Vaughn barks that they will not. But the first soldier looks at Marcy's bruised cheek, then down at the floor. He steps forward, bowing deeply as he offers Secretary Bellows a sincere apology. Vaughn raises his broken wooden handle as if it still holds any authority. Ignoring him, the second soldier bows, and the rest quickly follow suit. Vaughn can only watch in absolute silence as his armed escort bows down. They show respect to the very woman he had dismissed as a paper carrier. The system quietly reopens the unfinished return task for Heartlock. Out of 10, the system HR left Liam 9 reactions short, but provided 9. Apologizing men, sometimes the universe loved efficiency. Liam grabbed a narrow training baton from the weapons rack. Marcy blinked when she saw it. Liam. He told her the apology needs real, audible sincerity. The first soldier remained. Bowed one sharp swat to his backside, a loud yelp, that was 2. Out of 10, Liam moved to the next. Louder, I am sorry, Secretary. Bellows, the man shouted. One swat, one yell, that was 3. Then things sped up. The next 5 men chose Marcy over Vaughn at full volume, each. Bowed lower yelled louder and screamed as the baton landed. That made 8 out of 10. Vaughn's face darkened. Marcy tried to stay serious, but her lips twitched anyway. The 8th guard bowed low, forehead nearly touching the cold floor. Secretary Bellows, I am sincerely sorry, he cried. Smack. Reaction 9. The final guard stopped. Looked at Marcy, waiting. She softly touched the fading slap mark on her cheek. You followed him here, she noted. The guard faced forward and bowed. Fair, I am sorry. I delivered the last blow, he shouted. 10 out of 10. Task done. Complete system functions restored. Liam twisted his wrists and the heavy metal restraints snapped open. The 9 guards stayed bent. Vaughn stood alone. Standing but not for long. Marcy looked at the bowing line, then at Vaughn. Color rose across her face when the final guard apologized. Directly to her, she touched that fading mark and smiled, a rare moment indeed. You promised an apology, Marcy told Liam. He set the baton across his shoulder. I tend to overdeliver when clients are rude, he said. She lifted her head, smiling. Smile. Vaughn backed toward the broken door. The complaint is waived. This is finished. Liam set the baton down. The arrest complaint is finished, he agreed. Vaughn stopped. Liam crossed the room and grabbed his wrist. Vaughn tried to yank free. Conrad's lingering strength was more than enough. The heavy hammer was personal, Liam told him. His face went white. Liam, Lel warned quietly. Liam looked at Marcy's cheek, his broken table and Vaughn's remaining good hand. He bent that arm across his knee. The wrist snapped hard, no holding back now. Vaughn dropped, screaming in agony. His squad stayed bowed. One soldier started forward but saw Marcy's cheek, stopped, and looked away. Marcy walked past Vaughn and picked up the hidden notice. She held it tight while medics finally lifted the captain off the floor. Liam let go of the ruined wrist. Now the matter is settled. Vaughn was carried out, both arms broken, leaving without a single word. His captain's stripes remained on his coat, but nobody respected them now. Lel waited until the room cleared, then he pulled Liam aside. The Brightwater Order sent a purification expert to tonight's banquet, he said. She can purge the toxins and regenerate his missing tissue. Liam's left pinky and right toe were still missing, and Avery was still loose. With 50 days left on his life clock, he accepted. Lel stayed behind to finish the revocation. Marcy escorted Liam directly to the banquet hall. An hour later, inside the West Haven Heroes Guild's Great Hall. Everyone was desperately pretending not to stare at the visiting Fiona Merrick. She was the saint of the Brightwater Order, a healer who could mend what the blood rain had destroyed, wearing a white ceremonial dress designed to expose temptation before purifying it. That was her excuse anyway. Honestly, the dress was doing some pretty amazing research. Lel entered behind them, noticing the gawkers, and cleared his throat. Respect, he barked. They are guests under guild protection. Fiona just smiled at the staring crowd. Vice President, she teased, if staring is a crime, you need a bigger prison. Instantly, several captains looked away. Fiona's eyes settled on Lel, noting that while others reacted, he barely moved. She wondered if age had made him unusually peaceful. Nearby, a captain choked on his drink while another looked at Lel with sudden sympathy. The vice president had survived a massive spider boss only to be publicly diagnosed by a saint. Lel's Ears flushed red, he looked over, but the boy just studied the ceiling, keeping his secrets stayed safe. Fiona caught the quick exchange, raising an eyebrow. Highly interesting. Lel quickly changed the subject like a guilty man. He demanded to know about the test, while another captain gestured at her ceremonial dress, asking why she dressed like that, if she was going to blame men for looking. Fiona just smiled, saying she did not blame the fever for raising the thermometer. The man's friends laughed before he could even decide if he had been insulted. Fiona then pulled back a curtain, revealing a black tent with a clear gemstone. Resting on a stone pedestal, she explained that the Brightwater Order studies active evil thoughts to cleanse them. Fiona told the hall that this purity stone would measure their deepest desires when temptation stood directly in front of them. The loudest captain stepped up, laughing. Fiona smiled very sweetly. She teased that confidence always brings the funniest results, as the first captain walked right into the tent, already grinning like a winner. They were still inside the West Haven Heroes Guild banquet hall. Fiona Merrick stood right beside the purity stone, and every single guest watched the gemstone wait for a number. The rule was simple, since the stone totally ignored their past life and only scored the malicious or lewd thoughts active inside that tent. Fiona folded her arms, warning him to stay under 80. The captain scoffed, calling his heart clean. The flap closed, silence, then a soft female laugh drifted out. Then his voice changed, begging her to come closer, and boy, did it get wild fast. He flew back into the hall with his shirt open, arms still desperately reaching for someone who was no longer there. The purity stone flashed an 88%, making half the hall burst out laughing while the other half checked the exits. The embarrassed captain grabbed his jacket, yelling that the magic tent cheated. Fiona just looked at the score and smiled at him, teasing that he basically surrendered national secrets. Another captain pushed through the crowd, boasting that 88 was amateur work. He confidently stepped inside next, determined to show off his discipline. Inside, a cat-eared construct purred softly at him. He lasted even less time, flying backward through the flap. He landed right beside his rival, 92%, so much for discipline. He adjusted his collar, grumbling about tactics. Fiona just nodded solemnly and joked about her brutal strategy. The crowd laughed even harder as the other confident fighters suddenly stopped volunteering. The first captain even tried to slip behind it. Fiona pointed at the 88% still glowing. Then she made him stand right beside the tent as a warning. Soon, the second captain joined at 92. No more comparing discipline. Marcy leaned toward Liam. They were incredibly loud earlier. Loudmouths. Liam told her the scores would handle them. Then Fiona's eyes locked right onto him. His F-rank badge and recent death warrant already spelled trouble. He was the banquet's favorite bad decision. Fiona called out Liam's name. His turn. The two failed captains looked absolutely delighted at the prospect. One pointed, laughing, "He will break the stone." The other mocked his company, telling him his score would be over 80. Great argument, terrible timing though. Liam stepped forward. Instantly, Fiona blocked the entrance with one bare foot. "The construct cannot hurt you," she warned, "so do not attack her." Liam paused. "Does she change faces?" Fiona studied him. "She adapts to preference," she said. That made it worse. Avery had already used a weak girl and a cat girl. Now every beautiful stranger had to be checked for a red light. Fiona lowered her foot. Enter. Inside the tent, the noisy banquet completely faded. A woman with black cat ears sat on a velvet chair, waiting. She smiled, opening her arms. "Come here," the Catwoman construct purred. Liam stopped exactly 3 steps away. The face was unfamiliar. The confidence, however, was massive. "Pure Avery," he told her his name. She tilted her head, asking if it mattered. She stood and walked closer. Her dress was incredibly distracting. Liam stayed back. Still 3 steps apart, she reached for his neck. He stepped aside. The construct laughed. "You are staring. Threat assessment at my dress," she teased. "Disguises hide weapons," Liam replied. She slipped behind him, reaching around his waist. He spun with her, keeping his distance. "You are afraid of a hug," she purred. Avery already tried to dissolve him during a hug. The construct blinked. Good, even fake seduction needed context. Instantly, she changed her entire tactic. She leaned closer, whispering that she could be whoever he wanted. That was exactly Avery's line. Her smile slipped. He checked her shadow. Looking for any blood marks, he stared just long enough to seem interested. His real goal was finding Avery before she found his heart. The construct touched his chest with one finger. Liam caught her wrist. "No red light," he murmured. She pulled free. "You are strange," she complained. Occupational injury, he replied. The tent opened, revealing Fiona by the purity stone. The entire hall watched. The gemstone remained clear, no reaction at all. In watch, a flat 0% appeared, leaving everyone utterly speechless. One captain checked twice, the other leaned so close Fiona pushed his forehead. Lel looked from the score to the monster bite on Liam's neck. Marcy covered a smirk with her glass, while Fiona lifted the stone. 0, she repeated. One captain protested, claiming Liam stared much longer. You stared because you wanted her, Liam answered. I stared for danger. The captain looked around, asking who Avery was. Liam gave the warning. She has a great reason to stop hugging strangers. Fiona's eyes sharpened. Your active intent inside was threat detection, she noted. Absolutely beautiful. His intense paranoia had just earned him some very special treatment. Fiona retried. She ran the test again. The display stayed at a flat 0. Everyone stares at Liam as if someone made a mistake building him. The captain demands a retest, but Fiona points right at his open jacket. You're first. Result is final, she says, placing the stone back. Clear the hall. Liam qualifies for private purification. The failed captain stops. Laughing, men expecting a pervert score move aside for this 0% F rank. 1. Captain even holds the treatment room door open, pretending he always meant to do that. 10 minutes later, Fiona takes Liam to a private treatment room. She points to a padded bench. Lie down and remove the injured boot. Keep your shirt on. Liam obeys and she sees his missing toe on his right foot and his missing left pinky. Her smile instantly vanishes. The poison claimed both, slowly collecting parts of him. Bright water can rebuild the damage, but the deeper root requires him to stay conscious. Liam nods. Fiona kicks off her shoes, placing one bare foot on his chest. He looks down, then up at her. Bright water channels purification through the soul. She explains, do not be childish. You led with a foot and trusted me to be mature, a pretty bold strategy. Fiona presses harder. Your score is 0, do not fight your way into negative numbers. The room vanishes. Liam drops into black water, with dark purple roots wrapping his limbs. One root tightens around his ankle and drags him deep. A white line cuts through the dark. Follow the light. Fiona orders. He tears one root from his wrist, but 2 more close in. White light hooks under his shoulders. Fiona pulls. The first layer snaps, searing pain burns his left hand. Bone pushes from the stump where his pinky was covered by skin. A nail forms last. His right foot burns next. The missing little toe grows back beneath Fiona's white light. He flexes all 10 fingers, then all 10 toes. Fiona has him touch the pinky to his thumb. She presses the restored toe, watching it curl. The feeling is incredibly clean. The blood rain took those pieces in seconds, but bright water returns them. Instantly, Liam laughs once, unable to help himself. For 1 minute, his body looks completely whole again. Fiona lifts her foot, checking the new tissue. A genuine smile appears. Both restored, she says. Liam holds up pinky. Maybe that dress really was for research, he jokes. Fiona's eyes move to his hand, then back to his face. Do not ruin your 0 score. Immediately she warns, referencing the stone. This room simply has different lighting. Her mouth curves despite herself. Then, the purple veins beneath his wrist darken. Again, the outer damage is gone, but core poison remains. He stands once to test his restored foot. All 10 toes carry his weight. He closes his new pinky around Fiona's hand. Her smile widens, but then she clears her throat and pulls free. Purple blood rises beneath his skin before she fully releases his hand. Her smile vanishes. There is a deeper root near your heart, she tells him, but the shield must stay stable. He lies back down as she places her foot against his chest again, catching his wrist with both hands. The inner sea returns, and this time, the white light carries him below the first roots. A thick purple mass pulses in the dark beneath his heart, hundreds of thin roots spread through the water. Fiona's shield forms around them like a clear sphere. Stay inside, she orders. If the shield breaks, the poison sea would close over him. He only opened the heartlock system to check his remaining life. At that exact moment, Fiona's white light touched the purple mass right beneath his heart. The heartlock system reacted before he could close it, detecting an active purification source. Automatic target lock on Fiona Merrick. The system had targeted his healer. During the only treatment that actually worked, Fiona's grip tightened around his wrist. In the real room, inside the sea, the shield flickered, locking onto Fiona. Locked on, break contact, he warned, but she insisted they stay focused. Chimed, showing an increase in favorability. Her white light bent toward him instead of The poisonous mass, the shield cracked on one side, but she dragged him closer. Inside the bright sphere, trying to stabilize their connection, this physical contact fed the system again, raising her favorability. Just like that, her lie was exposed. She could even deny it. Her breath caught, and inside his inner sea, the clear shield split open. Purple roots flooded through the gap and wrapped around his legs. Stop the treatment, he ordered, but her voice shook as she insisted on finishing. She pulled at the core root, but it pulled back harder. Soon, the shield collapsed. Black water closed over his head, turning the treatment into a drowning trap. He kicked against the roots, reaching for the white light. Above him, Fiona grabbed his arm, but her focus broke every time their hands met. Heartlock flashed another increase. As water filled his mouth, he clenched his restored left hand until his new pinky hurt. That sharp pain cut through the inner sea. Pulling toward reality, he forced his eyes open. The treatment room slammed back into view. He rolled off the bench, coughing heavily as Fiona caught his shoulder. Before he hit the floor, scattered white light faded and went completely out. The purple veins remained beneath his wrist, and Heartlock showed the same life estimate. Approximately 50 days. His finger and toe stayed restored, but the core poison remained. Fiona knelt beside him, breathing far harder than the treatment justified. Her hand lingered on his shoulder for one extra beat before she pulled it back. This purification requires long-term sessions, she said. You will come to the Brightwater order. As he sat against the bench, that sounded less like an invitation. Fiona lifted her chin, calling it a strict medical order as Heartlock chimed. Her favorability increased again. He looked at the screen and, trust me, she noticed. Narrowing her eyes, telling him not to smile, she claimed it was professional development. Blushing, she stood too quickly, caught the bench edge, and nudged it back into place without meeting his eyes. His finger and toe were back, but his clock still read 50 days. Avery remained the only complete cure. He learned later what Roland handed Vaughn that very night. In a private West Haven office, Roland Heller stood over his younger brother, while both of Vaughn's arms hung completely useless. In fresh braces, Roland struck him across the face, driving Vaughn into the desk. When he stood, he snarled that Vaughn lost both hands to an F rank, losing the entire squad, the arrest warrant, and their main leverage. Vaughn spat blood onto the carpet, keeping his head down as Roland threw a folded map onto the desk. The title across the map read Ashfall Dungeon, which the guild listed as an ordinary rank, but the creature ruling its deepest room was S rank. Another zone nearly killed the boss, and Roland revealed that the injured beast escaped with injuries so severe that even an F rank could finish it. Standing up, Roland taps the map, promising to bury the report, enter first, and land the final blow to steal the S rank victory before the original squad returns. Captain Credit keeps his eyes glued to the map. Roland leans closer, asking if he can still hold a weapon. Vaughn smiles, saying he will take the victory.